Hello, you're listening to the Saluki Gamescast. This is episode 117 for Tuesday, June the 3rd, 2025. My name is Justin Young. Joining me as always are Alicia Utecht, Christina Ivey, and Mario Sanders. We're going to talk about Summer Games Fest and IO Interactive finally revealing some details about their 007 game, and brand new, just released this morning, exclusive details about Christina's most anticipated game. We'll be talking about all that and more coming up. But first, how are you all doing? You can just hear her excitement. Like, how often on this podcast does she just begin with, oh my God?
Honestly, probably more than... No, I'm just kidding. I'm doing well otherwise.
Other than your crippling anticipation?
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's what I'll call it on this podcast. Yep.
How's everyone else?
I'm packing, so I'm stressed, but, it's fine.
You haven't packed up the cat yet, right?
No.
You're still at home.
He still gets to roam for a little bit.
There's a box at our house with little holes in it, just waiting.
He is so
dropping
sad.
one bit of food at a time.
He is so sad. I brought home all these boxes, and none of them are for him.
Oh, that's what you have to do, a decoy box. Be like, buddy, this is your box.
He has so many boxes already.
But he wanted a new box, Mom.
Those old boxes got boring.
Yeah, they smell like me. This one doesn't.
Oh, yeah, it'll be interesting when I start packing up my home office, because that's the room that his bed is in, and so that's where he normally hangs out during the day. So when I go up there and start packing that room, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I think he might leave his bed and come sit in the box every time.
Save that one for when I come over to help, and I'll just I'll wrangle him.
Yeah,
and
just be like, Snuggles, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm needy.
You can distract him for a little bit.
Yeah.
Hopefully. All right. Mario, how are things going?
Going fine. Nothing all that exciting. It's been a week.
It's been a week. Yeah, it's headed into... It feels like it's really getting into summer now. Getting into June, getting out of May and everything. Is we should say it's Pride Month. Happy Pride Month.
Woo-hoo!
Happy Pride Month to Christina, but also all of our listeners.
I've just seen so many TikToks of all varying on the same theme of POV. It's the first day of Pride, and it's that sassy guy at the office being like, "Move, it's Pride," and being like, "I need the copy machine, get out of my way." And I'm like, "Yep."
You can't deny me. It's my month.
Yeah, it's my month.
It's have you ever seen the screenshot of the guy with his housekeeper where she's like, "I left some extra candies for you. My child told me that it's the month your people celebrate."
Oh.
And he's like, "Pride?" And she's like, "Yes, I am very proud of you."
It's the month your people celebrate.
It's clear English is not her first language.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
It's just so sweet.
It is the month my people celebrate. How did you know?
So happy Pride to anybody out there listening. Hopefully it is a good month, and a good month of celebrations. Christina, I know you're involved in a lot of celebrations. You had one the day before.
I had two this past weekend. I went to Mount Vernon Pride, which was small, but also it's only, I think, in its third year, and so it's really nice to go to those small town ones. And the sisters were brought up on stage, and we talked about some of the things we have going on. And then I went to at PK's downtown. They did their kickoff brunch on Sunday. So and then the 14th, the Carbondale Pride on the Strip. I'll be there somewhere. I'm doing the blessing right before the parade. The 20th at the Sanctuary in Heron is another little party. And then the 28th at Boobies is an 80s show with queer undertones.
This is your big performance.
Yeah.
You're gonna do, can we say what you're doing?
Yeah. So I'm just doing a performance number to a prayer by Madonna. It's gonna be a lot. If you offend easily, do not come. But it's going to be fine. It's going to be all right.
I feel like if you were alive in the 80s to have seen that music video originally when it aired and everything, you're probably not going to be offended by this.
Well, and I started off, I was like, how would a sister talk about the 80s in this context? And so the number actually starts with Jerry Falwell talking.
Okay.
Just because that was such a huge part of culture in the 80s, or at least like what brought about a lot of counterculture. So, yeah.
When I teach that music video in class, I use a clip of Benny Hinn doing faith healing. Because there's that part where she lays hands on her and like a lot of students have no idea what is going on. And so I have to explain that.
Yep. I mean, there will be similar things happening. It's just with me dressed as a nun.
I definitely did not hear faith healing. I heard faith healing and thought like Faith Hill. And I was like, how does Faith Hill fit into this?
If you don't know. But yeah, it's going to be a good show overall. I heard the person that helped me cut the music and do some really cool stuff with it was talking about all the different characters that are in it. The only person, or the only character that she wasn't able to get in it that she wanted was, is it Greta Gremlin? The one that's dressed like a lady.
I don't.
Looks like a drag queen.
The Gremlins?
Yeah.
Like the one with the like bright red lipstick and stuff? Yeah. I don't know that she has a name, does she?
I know she has a name because I have the Funko Pop of her in my office, and I think it's Greta, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, that's the only character that she wasn't able to find somebody to do a number for. So if you want to dress up as Greta and come down to Boobies June 28th, I'm sure she would be very appreciative.
I just always think of the Key and Peele sketch now when I think of the Lady Gremlin.
Yeah. Key and Peele is one of those shows that I think is wildly underrated. Like, the people who know, but sometimes I'll say Key and Peele or I'll do a reference and people look at me like I'm weird. And I'm like, you have to watch. You have to. It's like comedy gold.
Have you ever seen their film Keanu?
No,
Oh, you should watch it. You should watch it with your partner. It's
honestly, she would eat that up. Like, we already have a list of all of the horror / stand-up that she wants to watch while she's here, and so I'll put this on there.
I would just tell you, it's about the two of them being like these single guys, and they adopt a kitten.
Oh, I think she has seen it. I have not. She told me I needed to see it, so we'll. She's a big rewatcher. We'll rewatch.
I really enjoyed that movie, but the Gremlins 2 sketch may be my favorite sketch that they did.
Oh,
like,
man.
there's so many good ones,
Yeah.
but that Gremlins 2 sketch, because it's both making fun of and celebrating that film.
Yeah.
And I love Joe Dante, and like I love the fact that Joe Dante, they said, "Hey, will you please come back and make a Gremlins 2?" And he said, "Only if I can do whatever I want." And they were like, "Okay."
And so he has like a drag queen.
It's got Hulk Hogan in it.
Yeah.
It's like the most Looney Tunes live action film ever made. It's just wonderful.
Yeah. But yeah, because I'm making her watch. I finally watched Companion.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Very good.
And I was like, I'm not a huge rewatcher, or if it's been a few years, I've probably forgotten the plot anyway. But I was like, I will rewatch this like today. It's so good.
It's a wonderful example of a film that has a high concept premise and actually like uses that premise,
Yes.
right? Like explores it
Yes.
to its like fullest.
For sure.
Like I feel like a lot of times movies have a premise and they're like, okay, this is our high concept premise and we're going to do one thing with it.
And they were able to like one up it on several different levels.
Yeah.
I don't want to do spoilers, but like, it felt like, it's like just when I got used to the premise and I was like, okay, this is how it works. They added something new into it, but in a way that didn't like
it doesn't feel
counter
cheating.
the narrative. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It feels like, oh, this is the logical.
Yes, this exists in this world.
Yeah, this is how this would work logically.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a very like fun, smart film.
Absolutely. Mhm.
I feel like there's been some fun horror films this year.
For sure.
and that's one of the better ones.
Yeah.
I mean, Sinners is great, but that's almost not a
Seen that
horror
one yet. I
film.
need to. I finally like it. This is how backed up I am. I finally saw The Substance this past weekend.
yeah.
I rented it and amazing. I understand all the accolades. I'm not even a big body horror fan, but tens. So good, so good.
Have you watched Anora yet?
No, that's the other one. Okay.
I love Anora. That film made me laugh so hard I was in tears. And if you had told me this very lauded Oscar nominated film was the funniest comedy of the year, I never would have believed it. And even the first 20 minutes of that film, never would have believed it's the funniest comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, that film, it's one of the ones that's I think the way it got advertised, at least from what I understand from hearing you talk about it, it's so different than what it actually is.
That was my takeaway. Actually sitting down and watching that, I was like, oh, this is not what this... But Sinners is another example of that. A film that I feel like the advertising is fairly misleading.
Yeah. Which I think, honestly, is part of the magic of that movie, at least from what I've heard from other folks. Again, I have not seen it yet.
I mean, I like it when they hide stuff. They don't reveal everything in the trailers.
What are you doing, Mario?
Nothing.
Mario!
I'm laughing at something not related. Well, related, but please continue your conversation. In terms of misleading trailers.
Oh, which one?
I feel like I remember Alicia saying, and I rewatched it with friends this weekend, explicitly saying, I really thought the chicken jockey was going to be a bigger deal.
Why does it always come back?
Chicken jockey.
I mean, I kind of understand that. As big as that blew up, you would have thought that's an important moment in the film.
And then you watch the movie and realize there's no important moments.
Except for that one towards the end of the film that made you legitimately laugh.
Yeah.
That I will.
Yeah, add that to your list of movies to watch with your partner.
Minecraft sad face.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because you're saying all this about trailers, and I'm like, yeah, I will watch the first trailer for a movie that I'm excited for, but I go out of my way to avoid seeing any further trailers.
To be surprised.
The Superman movie. One of my friends sent me a video of a composer breaking down what they're doing with the original theme and how they're the original theme song and how they're playing with it. But
the
I was
John Williams theme.
Yeah, but I was like, he's breaking down the second trailer. I can't watch this yet. I'm glad I saw that first trailer. That is more than enough. I don't want to see anything else until I see the movie.
Sometime watch the trailer for the film. It comes at night. And then watch the movie. But first, before you watch the movie, write down what you think that film is based on the trailer. Because that film and the trailer have almost nothing to do with one another. And it's amazing because they're not lying in the trailer. Everything in the trailer is in the film. But it's just the way they cut it makes it feel... It's like one of those films where they go back and they take Mrs. Doubtfire and they recut it as a horror film.
Yeah. I used to, when I taught visual communication, I would have, that was an option for their final, was to do something like that. My favorite one that students did was they took the movie, with the teddy bear. Ted. I was like, it starts with a T. Ted. And made it into a horror movie.
Yeah.
And it was... Comedy gold.
Christina, the tapping your fingers together doesn't really work on a podcast.
Okay, well, I have to do it because it's June.
That's fine, but you need to also
it's Pride Month.
It's Pride Month.
You need to also
How dare you criticize her?
It's
during the month of her people.
You don't snap anymore. It's very obvious you're not a part of my culture.
Okay, I'm just saying this is an audio.
Well, they don't need to know that I'm doing it. I need to do it.
Well, but when you're sitting here and you're like, it's... and then you just do it.
Listen. They understood. Context clues. It's fine.
All right. Enough of those shenanigans. All right, let's move on to what you've been playing. Alicia, what have you been playing?
So it is Pride Month, so I had to revisit my gay lawyers. I am back on Ace Attorney Investigations 2, Prosecutor's Gambit. This game is so good. Oh my gosh. You know, I mentioned before, like, the first case gives you a throwback character. Case 2 has even more of them. And then I'm on case 3. I'm probably like 2/3 of the way through case 3 right now. And that might be one of my favorites of all so far. Because what they do with case 3 is you get to go into flashbacks and go back 18 years ago and play as Edgeworth's father, which, you know, from the first game, you know that the original Ace Attorney game, you know that Edgeworth's father was killed, and his last trial he was up against Manfred von Karma, and he made von Karma take the only penalty in his entire career, and it's this case. So, like, you're going into it, you're playing as Gregory Edgeworth. You know you're not going to win this trial, and I am a little disappointed. It does seem like it doesn't let me actually play the trial. You're just doing the investigation part, but it's also really fun getting to go back and see, like, how an experienced defense attorney made his way through the shenanigans of the Japanifornia legal system long before Phoenix Wright ever got there.
And that's interesting, just like from a storytelling perspective, that video games are one of the mediums where you can, like, do that in a visual medium. Like, you can do the flashback, and it's not, you know, it's not like a Marvel film where you're trying to de-age actors or something. Like, you can just do that in a very convenient, easy fashion.
Yeah. And, like, you know, there are minimal voice clips, but they're able to, like, reuse Von Karma's voice clip from the first game, so you get the demonic, like, horrifying objection that scares the crap out of everybody. And you also get, because one of the characters introduced in this game is Eddie Fender, who was, yeah. Again, this series lives for puns. But he was Gregory's assistant back in the day, and then now he's a full defense attorney. And so you've gotten to see him now as an adult in case 2, and then you get to see him at 18 in the flashbacks, which is really fun. It's so good. I should be packing, and I'm playing this game instead.
Like, I think when I was moving to Boise after my PhD, like, that's when Star Fox Zero came out, and I just wasn't sleeping or packing or doing anything, just playing that game.
Yeah.
That's how, like, bad Star Fox Zero was. You couldn't sleep. Like, this game was traumatizing you.
I was also finishing my dissertation, so I couldn't turn my brain off at this time.
Gotcha.
And so I was trying to do anything to make myself go to sleep. But the game was better than I anticipated. So.
Cool. Is that it, Alicia?
Yeah, that's been it. I'm just full deep dive obsessing again.
All right. Christina.
Yeah, so I've it's mostly been watching and not playing, although one of them I want to play. The first one is called Duck Season, and it's like, think about Duck Hunt, like from early Nintendo, and make it into a horror game. And so essentially you play this little boy whose mom has just brought him a brand new video game, Duck Season. And when you pop it in, it takes you into the game, and you're shooting the ducks, right? You can also have the option of shooting the dog, just like in the original. And then...
This is the VR game.
Is it VR? I don't think it's just VR.
Okay, it began as a VR game.
I mean, it may be VR, but honestly, just the idea of taking, like, an old video game and make it, like, what if this was a horror game is hilarious, because the, like, weird stuff starts happening to you when you go back into the real world, and The dog is terrifying.
Yeah, I feel
On
like
a scale of 1 to Cujo.
Well, he's like a 6, but also like I'm a big Stephen King fan. He's only like a 6 until towards the very, very end. He gets bumped up to like an 8, but yeah.
yeah, this is a VR game. Unless it's been there's a new version.
The person I watched was not playing VR, so
Okay.
that's why I was like, I don't know. But it makes sense as a VR game because like when you're in the video game part, like it very much looks like it would be that thing.
I just remember this because it was like one of the early sort of like breakout VR games.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason it, like when you start talking about it, like reminded me.
It was really cool. It has like 4 or 5 different endings, so it was really, really interesting.
It is a cool game. I mean, yeah, definitely.
The other one I watched a big part of. I guess there's 2. There's one I can't remember the name of it, but it's essentially going to be like a Papers, Please, but like with a zombie apocalypse. That one I'll talk about later. But for this one, I watched someone play through a video game called Do No Harm, which online, the way that it's described, is a doctor simulator with a Lovecraftian twist. And essentially you are a doctor that saw like an advertisement to move to this little island to be their doctor because they no longer have one. And when you get there, it's like everybody is real sick in a real weird way. And the way that you cure them is based on the 4, what is it? What are the names of them?
Horsemen of the Apocalypse?
Humors.
Oh.
Like melancholy, whatever. And you have to like...
Tragedy, comedy.
No, it's...
No, like Mount Bile.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
The 4.
I don't remember what they're called, but you know. And so like at the beginning, they really are good about telling you their symptoms, and then towards like as you progress in the game, they don't know what's wrong with them, and you just kind of have to experiment on them. And other characters come visit you and try to persuade you to either save or kill certain people that come in. It's really cool. It has a neat visual thing. People keep messing or like whatever is kind of haunting this little island starts to impact you, and so this little witch lady brings you some laudanum that you're supposed to take every time you start seeing visions.
So this is basically House the game.
Honestly, yeah.
Okay, it's blood, black bile, yellow bile, and phlegm are the 4.
Yes, and so those are, you have like these jars set in front of you that you can give different doses to the folks. Again, as the game progresses, you get more diagnostic tools to try to figure out what they are, because you can pretty easily kill somebody with the type of injection that you give them. So
I mean, is it ever lupus?
no, right, that would definitely be a dog. Although I did take notes for it because it feels very much like I don't know, like as a chronically ill person playing this game, it was really interesting just because it's like sometimes you can kind of explain what's happening to you, but you don't have the right quote unquote jargon. And some of the people playing it that I watched said things was like, I don't know what it is. It's AIDS. Or, just were like highly dismissive to the point of being almost offensive with how they were reacting to it. It's like, I don't know, man, you're just going to die. And I'm like, I have thought about doctors saying that to me sometimes when they can't figure out what it is. And so I don't know. I think it's I just think it's a really interesting and like has some things in it that not everyone obviously is going to pick up on, but yeah, it's cool.
That is interesting. You take something like that's in the sort of format of a horror game. It sounds like, and to like think about it from a real world perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a real world issue. This is not like, how are you going to capture this Pokemon? This is like a real world issue that affects people.
Yeah.
That's being done for entertainment's sake, and maybe not so much for like an actual like message.
Yeah. I definitely don't think that the developers had this in mind, but again, it's interesting, like being different identities, playing different games. This one in particular, just because I'm chronically ill, I was like, oh, I kind of recognize these narratives, and I envision that what I'm told is actually what this player is saying as they're playing. So,
Right.
yeah.
And that player is probably not thinking of this in terms of real people.
Yes.
They're thinking of it simply in terms of being frustrated with a video game.
And similarly, like I can understand like me coming in with all these symptoms or going through all these tests, doctors being frustrated. And so yeah, it was just a really interesting game. I really love the aesthetic of it. That's usually one of the things I look for. And it does look very like Lovecraftian. All the folks that come in just look like they walked out of, a Lovecraft book. And so it's really cool.
Cool. Is that it? Mm-hmm. All right, Mario.
I haven't played a ton. I did, for some reason, finish Hercules.
I watched a little bit of that on Twitch.
I was hanging out on stream when you did.
But the only reason I finished it, so I had mentioned last week that one of the friends that I play a lot of the N64 games with, he will be doing a speed run of it at Games Done Quick.
That's cool.
They did like a preview run or something like that sometime last week. And I hadn't actually sat and watched one of the runs in its entirety. I'd seen bits and pieces of it. But as I was watching him, the first 3 bosses that you fight are minotaurs. And you have to go through each of their like dungeons or their labyrinths in order to get to them. And the Minotaur fights are bad, but the worst part about it is you go through this whole gauntlet only to then die to the Minotaur in like 30 seconds. And then you have to do it all over again. And so I was like ready to just like stop playing it because the second one, I was like, there's just so much going on and I don't want to have to do this every single time. And so I watched him do the speed run of it. And, I it's one of those things where it looked very simple, and it was. I literally, after watching him go through it, I booted the game back up, and I beat the dungeon and the boss in 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
That's just how broken that game is.
You just have to know the right strategy.
Yeah, well, so basically you don't even like go through the gauntlet, like the labyrinth, really. Basically what you have to do is you have to punch down a wall, and behind the wall are these skeletons that are just absolute tanks, and Hercules is so weak in that game. So you have to fight the 2 skeletons that are behind the wall that you knock down. You then get a key. That key opens up a different chest, and basically you have to do that six times. And so like across this dungeon, you essentially have to fight like 20 skeletons before you actually fight the Minotaur. And basically what you do in the speedrun is there's something about the game in terms of the way that it's coded that when you pause the game, it like advances a frame, or when you unpause it, it still like advances a frame. So basically if you are running towards a wall and you pause, it will still advance that frame, but it won't recognize the wall, so you will just run right through it. And so basically you just like don't deal with the skeletons, you don't deal with knocking down the walls, you just run through them. And then with the Minotaur fight, you can essentially just like manipulate its movement enough. You have to like knock the Minotaur out and then throw him into this like pool of lava. You can essentially manipulate him where he will just jump into the lava himself. And so, like I said, it was one of those things where I was watching it and I was like, this looks easy. And that's how a lot of speedruns are. They look really easy when somebody is that good at it. Like I said, he holds the record for the fastest time for this game. So it makes sense that he's going to make it look easy. When I booted it up, it really was that easy.
Wow.
And that's like, there are other parts of the speedrun that are far more difficult, but that section, that was the one wall. And I was like, you know what? This game is going to live because this person, it has shown that we can beat this game. And so I ended up going through and beating the rest of it.
Yeah, I think I was watching when, I think it was like a dragon maybe you were fighting, something that blew fire at you, that your character just like,
I was there for the centaur lady.
Yeah, well, so they're those are two different fights. So there's a Titan that you have to fight that throws fireballs and breathes fire at you, and then there's a dragon that you have to fight that also breathes fire at you. Neither of those I was like, once it was just getting through the Minotaurs. Then I was like, all right, I can play the rest of the game normally. I really don't mind. Yeah. The final fight against Ares is bad. And I was getting ready to like, all right, Giga, can we hop into a call and you can teach me how to do this Ares fight? Because basically, so Ares has 4,000 health. Once you get him down to 2,000, he runs away and you have to fight a bunch of minions. And then he respawns back at 4,000 health with 2 copies of himself. So essentially there are 3 4,000 health enemies that you are fighting. And the speedrun can basically manipulate it where he never actually teleports away. You just like are able to grab him and hold him and, you know, like make it so that you can kill him before he ever
Nice.
So it's because it's at 2,000 or lower is when he does the teleport, and basically you just get him down to 0. Because the frustrating thing about that game that he was talking about in this run is the damage that Hercules does. I said Hercules is weak. That is somewhat accurate. I guess the more accurate way is Hercules is really inconsistent with how he does damage. There isn't like a punch does 20 damage. The way that damage is calculated is it's, I guess, somehow tethered to the game's frame rate, and the frame rate goes like a damn roller coaster.
Because it's an N64 game.
It's an N64 game. And so there are moments where you just feel like you are doing no damage. And so, anyways, that last fight against Ares is particularly bad, but I found a strategy that was very slow, but was very safe. And it took us about 35 minutes just to kill Ares, it was fine.
But you did it.
And that doesn't include all the times I died to Ares. It was that one fight took 35 minutes.
Wow. So, quick ranking, the Ares boss fight in God of War 1 versus the boss fight in Hercules.
It's been so long, but I have to say I'd rather do the God of War 1, but it's been a while.
Okay. I mean, it's been a while for me too, but I don't remember that boss fight making me angry.
I don't remember that being particularly bad. I feel like the thing from God of War 1 that people talk about more is having to fight the 100 Kratos clones.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things like, you know, we kind of joke that the Hercules game is sort of a rite of passage within this friend group. And so having now played it, we're talking about for not this Friday, but next Friday, doing Hercules, since now all of us have at least have some amount of like real exposure to that speed run, and can like all of us can either get through it pretty easily, or at the very least tell somebody how to get through it very easily. Because that's one where like going in with nothing, like I said, that game is hard. The Minotaur bosses, and this is what this friend was saying, like that is where the difficulty of that game peaks. Once you get past that, it's not necessarily like if you're trying to fight Ares normally, yeah, it's probably pretty hard. But you know, that's what I say, like if somebody can just like get basically that pause timing and running through the walls down, you could probably beat that game without any other experience with it, probably like 3 hours. So yeah.
That sounds right for that kind of game of that era.
Yeah.
And you said you did play the Xena game?
I did play the Xena game. I think I had posted, I had streamed that one, and I was just like, better show, better game, Papa John's. It's for Xena. The Xena game, it's not very good either. It's just a fighting game, and so I beat it in 20 minutes. And so that's far more reasonable to experience than the Ares fight literally took me longer than beating Xena.
How many characters are in the Xena game?
Oh, maybe like 8, or so. You probably have to do like 9 rounds of fighting, so it's very quick.
It's Xena, her sidekick. What's her name?
I don't remember. I can't remember. I did not participate when they did all the watch through of Hercules and Xena.
Well, I certainly haven't watched all of Xena, but I did see some of Xena when it was originally on.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It was like Xena's in it. Caesar is in it.
Isn't Ares? Is he?
Ares might be in it as well.
I feel like he was in the series.
I don't know if you fight Ares, but anyways, yeah, like I said, it's your typical, more of an arena fighter. Like it's 3D. You're not like a Mortal Kombat.
Or like a Tekken or something.
Sure, yeah, you've got like an actual little arena that you can run around. But yeah, it was better in the sense that it was far less frustrating. Like the reason I was ready to drop the Hercules game is like I just don't want to play a game that makes me that angry, because it was just like it was so frustrating going through this whole, like I said, the whole labyrinth just to die so fast.
Yeah. I think we've talked about it before, but that used to be the experience of playing video games, because video games were so expensive and so hard to come by. You got like one video game a year maybe for Christmas or your birthday. And so you would play that game no matter how terrible it was, because when were you going to get another video game?
Yeah. And it's the classic sort of like, game design of that era, which is not a bad thing, but it's like you had dedicated save rooms. So if you died, you went back to wherever that save spot was. It wasn't you auto save as soon as you enter into a new room, or you can save in the middle of the dungeon and all those sorts of things. So
yeah, it's amazing when you go back and play, like particularly 8 and 16-bit games, because none of that quality of life stuff is in there. I mean, it's weird to go back and play the first Metroid and there's not a map. And you're like, the idea that games of that era expected you to draw your own map using graph paper. Like that just doesn't, there's no expectation of that kind of thing these days.
Well, and I won't talk about this one as long, but the other game that I've gone back and played is I've gone back and played a lot of UFO 50. And obviously that has some extra quality of life stuff, but they're basically, I think I've talked about this before. I've really like suffer cored my way through that game, where I will not start a new game or open up a new game until I beat the last one. I have opened up 27 games in the 50. I have beaten 26 of them. And that 28th one won't get opened up until the 27th is beaten. And I had just gotten hard walled by one of them. So I was like, I stopped playing it. And so I've gone back, but there was one that I recently beat. It was like sort of your classic shoot 'em up style side scrolling one. And you don't start with any extra lives. So you die once, you just like, you're starting the whole game over again. And I was like, oh my God, this is how just games were at a particular time.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you go back and play those sort of shooters, like you go back and play the original Gradius, I think what people don't realize is you get to like level 3 of that game and you have your ship completely powered up, and then you die and you lose all those power ups. But the game is designed at that point around you being fully powered up.
Yeah.
So like there's no way to progress without power ups. And like that's sort of insane game design. Like nobody would make a game like that today.
Yeah.
Unless they're making something for UFO 50 where they're trying to emulate that sort of game design.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of it, but there's one that's very similar on the N64 where that was the strategy. Like if you die, you might as well just restart the game. Like there's no point in trying to like get lucky enough to get all of this in like this one level before you get to the boss. You might as well just restart. And so, yeah, that the design philosophy is maybe a good thing that it doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of older players, pine for the older game design sometimes. I'm like, have you gone back and played those games?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I have, and I got to tell you, a lot of those games do not hold up super well. Like, you would not want to play them for the first time today.
Yeah.
I mean, some games do, right? Like Super Mario Brothers certainly does, but like a lot of the other games surrounding it certainly don't. All right, cool. Is that it?
Yeah.
So I haven't really played anything new. I finished Doom: The Dark Ages. I continue to think that's a really fantastic game. it's not doing anything really radically new or different. I mean, I've talked about it before, so I'm not going to relitigate the game. But I will just say I feel like it feels like maybe the best version of that gameplay. Like it feels like the best balance, the most fun. As much as I like Doom 2016, and I feel like that's a very sort of like different game in a lot of ways, this feels like I've just had the most fun turning my brain off, and I'm just going to like go kill as many demons as I can in the most brutal ways I can. There's a whole lot of stuff they do in this with like the animation, like you get a flail, you get a rocket launcher or a grenade launcher, and the grenades have spikes on them, and just doing a lot of stuff to like kind of up that factor. Like they completely know what kind of game they're making. They know the audience they're making it for. It is I know I've used this example before, but they are making a game for the middle school boy who's drawing like crazy heavy metal cover albums in his textbook. And they know that's who they're making a game for. And like, I wasn't even that kid, but like, I completely respect them, like knowing like, and having a very clear audience who they're making it for. And I think the game's better for it. So yeah, that's what I've been playing. Fantastic game. I highly recommend it. If you like first-person shooters, it's not going to win you over if you hate them. But I will say, I think it may win over more people than Call of Duty would. At this point, if you don't like Call of Duty, maybe give this a chance. It's a little less self-serious. All right, let's move on into the news. And it is Video Game Christmas this week in lots of different ways. So this Thursday, we're recording on Tuesday. Thursday, the Switch 2 releases. That's extremely exciting. Anytime we get a new console, and this is a fully new console. This isn't like the PlayStation Pro where, it has some new features, but it's basically a PlayStation 5 again. This is a fully new console, so that comes out on Thursday. And then Friday, Summer Games Fest kicks off in earnest. And Summer Game Fest is what has replaced E3 in recent years. And so this is where game companies, gather together. Everybody gathers in LA for the most part. And they show off all their new games, right? Like this is where new games get announced. Games that have been announced get bigger blowouts so that you can see what the game actually, sort of looks like and plays like. This is, for those who don't know, this time of year, E3 as a trade show for the video game industry began as a way to sell games to video game retailers. So you had E3 and you would get people from Walmart and Target and GameStop and all these stores to come to the trade show. And you'd say, hey, we think this game is going to be the biggest game of the year. You should order 1 million copies for your stores across the country. That's less of what this is now, right? Because those game manufacturers, they tend to go directly to those companies because most games are sold now digitally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the ones that aren't are sold at basically Walmart, Target, and Amazon. And so you can just go directly to those companies, right? And Alicia, you are fully aware Target and Best Buy are, in Minneapolis, they're together. Yep. And I feel like another major retailer is there as well. But anyways, I guess GameStop is there. Mm-hmm. So, you go to one city, you can go around and see all three of those companies and showcase and, make their own pitch. So there's not as much of a need for E3, but this is still a huge time of year for promoting these games and building up hype and everything. It's interesting, the film industry does something similar. In fact, they just did theirs a couple weeks ago. They bring all the exhibitors, all the theater owners together and show them like, hey, here's our big films coming out. We're going to show you early previews of those. So Summer Games Fest is kicking off, and one of the cool things that's happened is as this has gotten bigger, Summer Game Fest is the big show hosted by Jeff Keighley. There's all these other shows that have cropped up around it, all these showcases and everything. So we're just going to read through these real quick in case people listening aren't aware of all the different ones that are happening. Most of these are happening starting on Friday and then going through the weekend. There might be a couple of these that are Thursday. So besides Summer Game Fest, there is the Accessibility Showcase. So this is geared towards games developed by people with disabilities, but also games that are designed towards accessibility. So we were talking before the show about like the Forza games over the last few years have really made great strides in this. Insomniac's games on PlayStation have really done a lot to make these games more accessible. If you're not somebody with a disability, you might not be aware of all the different ways that crops up. So like even something like color blindness, right? So many games are based around color design. And so if you are colorblind, that can make games basically unplayable in a lot of situations. But also people with hearing issues, vision issues of different kinds, right? Also people with physical issues. So you were mentioning, Christina, people with arthritis, right? I know the God of War games, for example, used to make you like tap a button to open a treasure chest, and then they changed that so you could just hold the button down. And so that's some, like that was always kind of a pain to do in the game, but it's not something I ever thought about as being
an accessibility issue.
Yeah, as a physical problem for somebody, right? So
Yeah.
I think if nothing else, something like this is fantastic because it just shines a light on that for the industry.
I was going to say, there's so many accessibility things that non-disabled folks just view as quality of life improvements rather than like fully opening the door to this experience improvements. And so it's really cool to have a showcase focused in on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and shining a light on those accessibility issues that you just may never even think about. Right?
And on creators with disabilities. Like
Yeah.
that, I'm really excited for this one.
So there's that. There's Day of the Devs, which has been a long-running one. Devolver Direct, focused on Devolver as the publisher. There's the Wholesome Direct, which is focused on sort of cozy, wholesome sort of games. I would imagine we'll see, at a minimum, at least 5 farming games.
Yeah.
Probably.
And probably at least one game focused around cats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They know their audience.
Yeah, I mean, wholesome. What better than farming with cats?
I wonder if a number of I guess any of these, if you'll see games that like perhaps are already out but are getting like re-promoted as, hey, we're going to be on the Switch too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would make sense, right?
Yeah.
Probably some of these you will see ports of games, right? Like, oh, we've been on Steam, but now we're coming out on these platforms. That would make a lot of sense. Then there is the Women-Led Games Showcase. So these are games, where women play a prominent role in the development of the game. There's a long history of this, of women in the game industry. Sometimes it, isn't necessarily like fronted in the game industry. So you hear about people like Shigeru Miyamoto more than you hear about Roberta Williams or somebody of that nature. But I do, certainly there are more women certainly in the indie sort of scene now, I feel like, making games and everything. And that's neat. Again, like some of these are very like kind of focused on who the creators are. The next one is the Latin American Game Showcase. So games being developed in Latin America or by people from Latin America, or focused on, I suppose, that region. There's the Southeast Asia Games Showcase, the Green Games Showcase. So this is not just games about Oscar the Grouch. This is games that have some sort of environmental message at the center of them. So, like there's the game Eco that came out a few years back, which is sort of a world simulator. I feel like that's a game that doesn't get talked about a whole lot, but is like very neat. And so like a showcase like this would focus on those sorts of games, I feel like. And I think that's really cool because, you know, again, those are games that often get overlooked by the industry. There's the Future Games show, so Future publisher like Devolver. There is the Frosty Games Fest, which is focused on games developed in Australia and New Zealand. Presumably not all Hobbit-focused games. So,
I was thinking for the Wholesome Direct, I was like, I wonder if we'll get an update on Tales of the Shire.
that's coming out this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would imagine we'll see something about it at one of these shows. I don't know which one. There's the Xbox Games Showcase. There's the PC Gaming Show. And there is the Black Voices in Gaming. So obviously a lot of these, you know, probably check off more than one of these categories. You know, I think for the most part, they try to keep them exclusively to one show in a lot of cases. But, you know, like this is neat. I will not watch all of these just because I don't have the time to watch all of them. But I do like to check in on some of these because you just find, you know, like a lot of these games in Summer Games Fest at that show, right? They're not big enough and they would just get buried. And so with one of these showcases, this allows them to like shine a light on some of these smaller indie games. You know, like Mario said, you know, some of these games might be things that are getting ports to new systems like the Switch 2. They might have been PC games that are getting console releases for the first time. And, you know, it gives these games kind of that second shot to be discovered. So I know, Mario, you were talking the last couple of weeks about that. Sorry, I'm forgetting the name. Yeah, the Battle of the Bands game, right? Like that's exactly the type of game that gets a showcase here that doesn't get shown at Summer Game Fest.
Sure.
Right. One of these, it would slot into very nicely, I'm sure. So that was the schedule up until this morning. And this morning we got the announcement of the PlayStation State of Play that is happening tomorrow. So Wednesday, since we're recording this on Tuesday, Wednesday, they're going to have a PlayStation State of Play. I believe it's about 40 minutes in length. This is a PlayStation State of Play, not a PlayStation Showcase. So in their terminology, a showcase is a big show. A State of Play is a smaller show. They kind of tease this as updates on some games as well as some new things being shown off. I would not expect, you know, huge news, but probably at least one big game that we aren't already aware of we'll see at this, I would guess.
Are State of Plays the ones that are potentially like third-party games as well? Or are these?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they show off. I think that's what we'll see, a lot of third-party stuff.
Because as I say, I know one of them is like specifically PlayStation Studios, and so that's probably a showcase.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, I don't know. Their language doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
All this different terminology for different types of shows. I just kind of like that Nintendo's like, this is a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
You never know what we might show. Sometimes I feel like they get out and they're a little, you know, they're self-aware. They know that people are going to be hyped up and they want to like tone that down a little bit.
Yeah, they will at the very least, like, this is an affiliate one. Don't expect anything from us. This is just third-party things.
Yeah.
And it's like, and people still get upset, you know, because people are on the internet. But, you know, that's at least, it's very straightforward,
Yeah.
it feels like.
This is a third-party Direct. You know, that means it's only third-party games. We're not going to show any of our stuff.
Yeah.
And then they always slip in something like that. What is the Cadence of Hyrule? They'll slip in something like that, and you're like, okay, well, like technically that's third party, but you're obviously tricking us with that. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Like, any of these particularly excite you? Anything you're hoping to see at any of these shows in particular?
Like I said, the accessibility showcase, the Wholesome Direct, obviously, as a cozy gamer, I really do hope we see Tales of the Shire there.
I would be shocked if we didn't see that at one of these.
Yeah.
Right? And that probably makes the most sense. Unless they just think that game is too big, like they're focused on smaller games.
Yeah.
Those are also the two that I was looking at, honestly.
The accessibility and wholesome games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll watch any of these specifically. Usually what happens is they pass, and then whatever the channel on YouTube that I follow that just like re-uploads all of the individual trailers themselves. And so I'll just see the trailers rather than knowing what showcase they were a part of. But I don't know if there's anything like specific that I'm like, oh, I hope to see this. I don't know if there's anything off the top of my head. Maybe, and I don't know if it's already could have already been canceled. Something about that Perfect Dark game that got announced like years ago at this point.
No, like that game is supposed to come out like relatively soon.
So maybe that one.
I mean, that would be at the Xbox.
Yeah. I feel like the big game that I expect to see at the Xbox showcase, more so than that one, would be them making some other announcement about that Fable game that also got announced, I think, at that same showcase years ago. But something about those would be cool.
I feel like that Fable game was supposed to be out this year, maybe.
That one I feel like we've heard more about. I feel like we got that one announcement about the Perfect Dark game, and then nothing else has ever come out about it.
Well, we got that gameplay. Do you remember that?
I don't even remember that.
We actually did get some gameplay like maybe a year ago or so. And that gameplay they showed off looked really cool, but it also looked like, is this the full game? Like, is this, are you going to be able to make the full game at the fidelity you're showing off in this gameplay? I think those are cool games. I will probably watch the PlayStation, the Xbox, and the Summer Game Fest shows. I usually like kind of dip in and see some of these others, like see a recap of here's what was shown off at the Wholesome Direct, and see, does anything in there like kind of catch my eye? Because often in those, I joke about it being farming simulators. Often it is like, here's 10 farming simulators, and then here's 2 games that actually like kind of catch my interest. I feel like that's the sort of thing where like Little Kitty Big City gets shown off, and like that game ended up being pretty neat. So
Devolver usually does something silly, like they have something more than just here the games we're showing. They've got a little sketch or something, so that might be one. PlayStation, I guess I would probably watch, but I don't know if any of the others are like I will sit and specifically watch it. I probably will. I just don't know which one of it is that it will actually be.
Sure.
Yeah. I feel like I would watch the PlayStation one, except for that's tomorrow, but also Deltarune tomorrow. So I'm going to be spending all day on Twitch. Literally, we are finally at Deltarune tomorrow. So I will be spending all day on Twitch watching people play that.
So is that expected then, like midnight tonight type of thing, or like it's midnight tomorrow type of thing?
Midnight Japan time, June 5th. So it's like 10 a.m. tomorrow here or something like that.
So are you going to watch Deltarune get played instead of waiting until Thursday and just playing it yourself?
Oh, yeah. I've never played these games. I am not good at... I can't do bullet hell. I always watch them.
Okay.
But I will watch people who play through every route and do everything. So...
Yeah, I mean, I think there's rumors that we'll see Resident Evil 9 at something here. It's hard to know what that would be at. That could be at this PlayStation showcase. It could be at the Summer Games Fest show. That is supposed to be a more open world take on Resident Evil, which sounds interesting, but like I don't know what that actually like. to some degree, Village was veering towards that. Okay,
Yeah, I was just thinking that, yeah.
So, like, I don't know how you do that other than to, like, say, okay, we're going to create a small town.
Yeah.
And you can just explore this small town.
Yeah, because even Village was still very much like...
It was like hub and spoke.
Yes. You go to, like, you can do a whole bunch of stuff here, but you can't go to the next place until you get a something.
Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking, like, something that would be, on a larger scale, but, like, that first village in Resident Evil 4. Like, you show up and, okay, here's this area and there's like a wooded area over here you can explore.
Which makes sense because, like, if you were to ask folks, like, what their favorite one is, many of them would probably say either 4 or they liked the revamp and, like, the village version of the revamp that's been happening recently. What?
You're turning away from the mic when you're talking.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
It's fine.
No, I think, it would definitely be something along those lines. I mean, that's my guess. Like, but maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe this will be something entirely different. Maybe we'll go back to Raccoon City.
A massive departure, and it's in the wholesome direct. You never know.
If I get jump scared by Resident Evil,
It's just a whole game about those dogs jumping through the window.
Well, it's going to be like the end of Shaun of the Dead, where he's taking care of his zombie friend.
I loved that ending so much.
I mean, look, this is Resident Evil. I wouldn't put it past them. They've done some weird games in the past. So, I mean, you can see something like that. Perfect Dark, based on that gameplay, I kind of want to see more of that game because I thought that game really looked cool. I'm interested in seeing what they'll do with Fable as a reboot. I really like Fable 1 and 2 quite a bit. And so the idea of, like, kind of rebooting that entire franchise is interesting to me. My question is always, do they get the tone right? Because, like, Fable was very much, sort of like of The Princess Bride. Like, this is a fantasy,
very,
but
like, whimsical.
Yeah, it's whimsical. There's a fart button in that game. And so, like, can you get that tone right without veering too far in one direction or the other?
Yeah, Fable is not some, like, gritty fantasy, and it would not feel right if it was.
I mean, you don't need that. We have so many of those sorts of games now.
It also feels like the name Fable, like it should be a little more lighthearted as well, as compared to something that you could see it turning into. Yeah,
I mean, it's sort of their Zelda in a lot of ways, right? It's like when people are like, oh, I want a hard and gritty Zelda. And it's like, what is wrong with you? Like, there are other games to play for that. That's not Zelda.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are some things, I'm kind of interested in seeing and hearing some more about. So I'll watch some of these over the next week, but some of them I would just look at the recap. It is neat, though, because sometimes they'll get shown at one of these, and then one of these more specific ones will be more of kind of a deeper dive. So you actually get more information on them. Let's see. One of the ones that's left off here is that IO Interactive is also having a showcase. This is going to be Friday night after the Summer Game Fest showcase. And they list 3 games as being part of this showcase for IO Interactive. Hitman, which is interesting because are they going to announce a new Hitman?
Yeah.
Or are they just going to show off that new version they're putting out on the Switch 2? Like, what do they possibly have to say or do with Hitman at this point? They put out that complete package, The World of Assassination, which groups 1, 2, and 3 all together in one package. That is a fantastic value, by the way. Anybody picking up a Switch 2 and hasn't played those games, that's a fantastic value. So they announced that. They also announced the name for their 007 James Bond project. It is called First Light 007. So, we got a brief trailer for this as part of the Switch 2 announcement. We don't know anything other than the title, basically, at this point. And this is the same developers as Hitman. And then also the third game is MindsEye. And so MindsEye is Leslie Benzies, who worked on the Grand Theft Auto franchise, particularly Grand Theft Auto Online, left. This is the game that his team has been working on as part of, what's the name? Build a Rocket Boy is their developer name. They were working on Everywhere, which was supposed to be this this platform where people would be able to make their own games, sort of Roblox, but for adults. And they have announced just recently, as part of all this, that they are stopping development on Everywhere. MindsEye, which was supposed to be built on the Everywhere platform, is going to release separate, but the underpinnings of it are this Everywhere platform. So it sort of feels like maybe MindsEye is just going to be the Everywhere, and that they're going to allow you to sort of like build off of this and develop, one would assume online gameplay and different things, setting up with that. They did say Everywhere is not canceled. It's just on pause. I wonder how much of that depends on how well MindsEye does.
Yeah.
But if it's Roblox for adults, does it come with a dating simulator option?
I'm sure you can build your own dating simulator as part of this. You can build Dream Daddy in this.
Or dating service or whatever Roblox did.
Yeah, their dating service that was not for minors.
Yeah.
Built on a platform that is almost exclusively little kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was nothing troubling about that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I really like those Hitman games a lot. I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with a 007 game. I feel like there's a lot to do using that Hitman engine, that sort of like open world. Hey, you're on a mission and you can kind of basically tackle it however you want. There's a million different ways to go about this. That fits well with James Bond to me. Rather than making this a straightforward action game.
Yeah, for
right?
Yeah.
So we'll see. And MindsEye, that's coming out soon. I feel like in the next month that game's getting released. So it'll be interesting to see what they show off from that. That game looks like a Grand Theft Auto ripoff.
MindsEye?
Yeah. Like, if you watch the gameplay, I just watched one of their more recent trailers for that. I may have seen it before, but I rewatched it. And it just looks like Grand Theft Auto 5, except there's some, you have a drone you can control. And that's about the only thing that feels different about it. So, I mean, I really like Grand Theft Auto 5. Like, maybe it'll be good, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything revolutionary so far. Let's see. Giant Skull, which is a developer formed by the former Star Wars Jedi director. So he directed the first of those Star Wars Jedi games. Is now working on a Dungeons and Dragons action-adventure game.
Nice.
Which, if you think of Star Wars Jedi, you think of setting that in a Dungeons and Dragons world, that makes a whole lot of sense, I think. We don't know that it's going to play exactly like that, right? Obviously, but you would think he knows how to do one thing really well, so it would borrow heavily from that.
For sure.
That game also was pretty neat. It was, a little bit of a Metroidvania, and that the world kind of, you would complete parts and it would loop back on itself and everything. So that's kind of neat to think about. They need a new Dungeons and Dragons game. They're not making a follow-up to Baldur's Gate 3, which feels like one of those insane things to think of as. And apparently that was all Wizards of the Coast, the owners of Dungeons and Dragons. Let's see. Street Fighter II composer Yoko Shimomura So she is the composer who did the soundtrack for, what's now considered a classic of Street Fighter II. She composed the soundtrack for that game. She has since gone on and done lots of other games, including the Kingdom Hearts franchise, done some work with that. She is, very much considered a legend in the game industry at this point.
Yeah, she's up there with Uematsu.
There aren't too many songs that people sort of know by heart in the game industry. And I feel like Street Fighter II soundtrack, right, is almost up there at the level with something like a Mario or Zelda of people know these songs. So she has come back and composed a new song for the Street Fighter VI game. This is a track that is going to be released as part of an update. So this is not DLC. You will just get it as part of this update. That's really cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that, I feel like she's the sort of person that for a long time in the game industry, we were talking about women in the game industry earlier, but I feel like she was the sort of person that, particularly on the Japanese side of the game industry, often didn't get the credit that they deserve. And I feel like really over the last 10 or so years, you hear her get so much credit now.
Yeah.
Like when people talk about great music in games, her name is one of the ones that comes up almost inevitably. So I feel like this just adds to that, right? Like the way they're kind of building this up as an event. For her song to be in here. Let's see. Nintendo has warned Switch 2 buyers not to remove the screen protector. This is kind of crazy news to me. So when you buy a Switch 2, it is apparently going to come with a screen protector already on the screen. You are not to remove that screen protector, Nintendo says. It is a film on the screen that is helping it, from any sort of damage from dust or jostling around or anything like that. I think we have all bought electronics in the past, and there is almost always that screen protector on there, and you are supposed to peel it off.
Yeah, I would say I'm all for releasing something with a screen protector that comes with it. But could you make it like a not a film thing? Because the film thing is what you're supposed to peel off.
Well, I don't know how this actually works precisely.
We'll find out on Thursday.
Because one of the things people have been talking about is people who have played this in person at these shows. They said, we did not notice any sort of thing on the screen. So we're not sure if those had this.
Yeah.
Or this is going to be something different, or we just couldn't notice it, right? So I don't think this is going to be the sort of plastic that comes covering your phone screen when you open it up. This is going to be something much more seamless. And I guess what they're worried about is, people trying to pick it off or something.
Yeah.
But anyways, just a heads up, an alert, anybody listening to this, if you're getting a Switch 2 on Thursday or soon after, there apparently is some form of screen protector on there. Do not pick at it. Do not remove it. It's supposed to be on there. I'm glad that word is getting out about this beforehand.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nintendo has also been testing Switch games via backwards compatibility to see how they work on Switch 2. They said 15,000 games. They currently have 170 with issues currently. So, we've talked about some of this before. Some of the games.
1% of games. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, you're
It's
fine.
not that bad.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about some of the games before that would have this, like Labo is an example. Ring Fit Adventure is an example.
That's what I was like, is it stuff like Ring Fit Adventure where it's just physically not going to be compatible with the Joy-Cons and the, the ring, I guess?
Yeah, but my understanding is if you have Ring Fit Adventure, you can still use your Joy-Con ones with it. You'll just have to connect those to the Switch 2 via Bluetooth,
okay.
and then it will still work. It's just your Switch 2 Joy-Cons will not work with it unless they release a new Ring,
Okay.
right? Which I would assume they might very well do.
Probably.
Like that game just last week, we picked it as one of the best games for the Switch 1. And so I can't imagine them not doing a follow-up of some kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that or like I said, just getting a sequel or they release a new Ring that just comes with a different game.
Yeah.
Do we get Ring Fit Plus? Like we
Yeah.
got Wii Fit Plus. Do we get something like that? Yeah, so, 170 games or so, again, some of these are probably going to be your, little indie games, the shovelware that's been put on there that does something weird that they shouldn't have done originally, and that just makes it break when it comes over to the Switch 2. It sounds like this backwards compatibility, nobody will know until people get in their hands, and people are obviously going to test every bizarre little game that they have. But it sounds like it's going to be pretty, reliable, work pretty reliably.
Well, yeah, like Mario said, that's not even 1%, maybe 1%.
I think it's a little over 1%, but yeah.
Let's see. Playtonic, the makers of Yooka-Laylee, they did that. They did the sequel that was the sort of like 2D game, The Impossible Lair, and then they were doing the remake, Yooka-Replaylee, which deserves credit for one of the best names for a remake.
It makes sense because it's based off of the Banjo-Kazooie, and the second one was Banjo-Tooie.
Right.
Which
was a great name as well.
Right. When I first heard this, I was like, it feels right.
So we're giving them praise here, but then this news is sad. They have announced layoffs. They do have a publishing arm. They were publishing some games as well. So this might be more focused on that end. But, Yooka-Laylee was never the huge hit that they intended it to be, that I think everybody wanted it to be. So this is not too shocking. I really like the idea of Yooka-Replaylee, not just being a remake of that game, but them actually going back and trying to fix some of the criticisms of that original game. So maybe getting a second shot in that game being the true Banjo-Kazooie sort of follow-up that fans have wanted for a long time.
Right.
So again, obviously best wishes for the people who are getting laid off there. More bad news. Multiversus has been officially delisted. So this is the Warner Brothers platform fighting game, the style of Super Smash Brothers. This has been delisted from major platforms. If you have already downloaded the game and within the last month and a half or so, you had logged in, then you have full access to the game now. And as part of your collection, they are not removing it from your collection. New people can't go and download it. So I actually did load this up to see what it looks like now, and it just booted me instantly into a screen where I could play 4 players at this game. And it unlocked the full roster of characters. I have LeBron James. I have Lola Bunny. I have all these.
All you need.
Yeah, just those 2.
Yeah.
It does have Spike the Gremlin. It does not have Greta Gremlin. But I don't know. I like that game. I could see that game becoming something to play with 4 players.
For sure. Yeah.
I remember how much everybody loved it when it first came out, and then they kind of killed it, which is really disappointing.
Well, I mean, for people who don't remember, they released that game free to play. Then they pulled it, and then they re-released it again, about a year later, and they had went back and redone. They had ported it from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5 and done other work on the game, and then they killed it again. Mm-hmm. The thing that strikes me about this that's really weird is people who already download this game, they get to keep it. Why not just keep this game and just put it up at $10? Like, maybe it's about licensing those characters. You know, I know
that's my thought.
A lot of those are owned by Warner Brothers, but some of them aren't. Like LeBron James, I'm sure you're having to pay him some sort of licensing for his image. You know, they're using the Game of Thrones characters, so you are having to pay, you know, George R.R. Martin, like some sort of licensing.
Well, even everything they've done in the past 3 years to get rid of Looney Tunes, like... So even the characters that they own, they're not
promoting those. Yeah. That's fair. I don't know. I just feel like you probably could have done some work and put this game out at $10. It is a better game than that Nickelodeon fighting game.
I remember you and OJ both saying this was the only one that felt close to as good as Super Smash.
I mean, it feels different, but like I think it plays pretty well. You know, and so I don't know, like I enjoyed it. What I played of it. This is the sort of game I would, you know, bring to Playing for Pets and be like, hey, let's play this. This is kind of a cool game.
Yeah.
And I think it has those iconic characters, right? It has Scooby-Doo. It has, you know, like LeBron James is kind of like a goofy character to be in there, but like everybody knows who LeBron James is.
Yeah.
You know, it's got, you know, Tom
Batman.
and Jerry, Batman, you know. Yeah, it just feels like one of those games where, like, you put this out at $10, people would have, you know, snatched it up.
Like, my parents would be down to sit and play this game. Because they would be like, oh, yeah, there's characters I know. And
right. Versus even something like Nintendo, right? Like, once you get past Mario, I feel like a lot of parents are like, I don't know who any of these people are.
Yeah.
Like,
if I were to put Super Smash Brothers in front of my mom, she would be too overwhelmed by how many characters there are that she doesn't know.
Like, who is Marth?
Yeah. Right.
Even people I know who play video games casually don't know who Marth is if they haven't played, you know, Super Smash Brothers a lot of times. Yeah, so anyways, that's kind of sad, but it is cool that they put out a version that people can continue to play. Let's see. In more sad news, EA has canceled their Black Panther game. As part of this, they shuttered the studio working on it called Cliffhanger Games. This is the third layoff to affect EA this year.
Man.
This Black Panther game was apparently an open world game where you'd be switching between Black Panther, Shuri, and
M'Baku.
Yeah. And so, you know, it seemed cool, like that Wakanda universe. Like, this is not based on the film, right? This is based more on the comic. But, like, that Wakanda universe is one that I feel like there's been a whole lot of enthusiasm over.
Yeah.
And so giving people an opportunity to sort of, like, explore that, right, seemed neat. You know, like, there's not really a direct reason. There is one of the stories that has come out about this is that apparently they spent 4 years in pre-development of this game, and that basically EA looked at it and their kind of reaction was, it's going to take so much more time and so much more money. Like, are we throwing good money after bad into this?
Yeah.
But, you know, like, we've seen several high-profile cases of big games in development getting canceled.
Yeah.
You know, it's always sad because you think about, like, what could have been, right? We should note that this is not the Captain America and Black Panther game. That's a different game. So there were 2 Black Panther games in development at the same time. There's one set during World War II with Captain America and Black Panther teaming up. That's an entirely different game. This was a Black Panther open world game. Yeah, I don't know. Alicia, you're the big comic book fan. I don't know how much like interest you have in a Black Panther game specifically.
Yeah, I think a Black Panther game would be cool. I am excited for the Captain America one. I'm bummed to see this one get canceled, but yeah, and it's tough too because I feel like video games are a really great medium for like the people who maybe watch the movies, but then the comics are intimidating because that goes back 50 years and diving into that can be intimidating.
Where do I start?
Well, let me play this game that's not necessarily the MCU version of the character, but is more comic based. So it is a bummer to see this get shut down.
Yeah, and like so they're also working Electronic Arts, not the same studio obviously since they're shut down, but another studio, I guess it's Motive, is working on an Iron Man game for them. And so this is interesting to think about, like, if they're shutting this down, do they shut down that Iron Man game? Is there actually an audience for, that Iron Man game? Like, if they feel they can't make this game go, can they make that Iron Man game go? I sort of feel like if we don't hear anything about that at Summer Game Fest during this time period, right? Not necessarily the Summer Game Fest show, but I feel like if we don't hear anything about that Iron Man game soon, I would start to assume that game is also canceled.
I'd completely forgotten about that one. I'm going to be so real, which tells you how little they've talked about it.
Well, I don't think we've actually seen any gameplay of that game. I mean, we hadn't of this one either. So, but yeah, disappointing to hear. And again, like those layoffs at Electronic Arts, this is their third layoff this year.
Yeah.
Electronic Arts was at one time the biggest game publisher, and to see them at this point struggling so much, about the only thing they seem to be getting right are their sports games. And even, as we talked about, the FC, the soccer game, had disappointing sales this year.
Yeah.
So if their sports games are also floundering, what is going right for them?
Yeah.
They canceled that new Sims game they were working on, Sims 5, whatever they were going to call it. It was their new Sims game.
Which is wild because it feels like The Sims just like prints money.
Yeah.
I was like,
Like,
The Sims is like,
There are people that don't play video games that play The Sims.
Yeah.
That, like, love The Sims.
yeah.
And they just put
That's
out
like
new updates for that, new expansions, and people buy them.
Yeah. I know, like, Sims is one of those, like, Call of Duty that it just, like, even if you don't play games, so you know those people play those who don't play games, like you said. So, like, canceling that, it's just like, man, EA, are you okay?
No, they're not. I mean, obviously they're not.
Yeah, obviously they're not.
And even their studios, right? Like, so Dragon's Age, like BioWare as a developer is struggling. So Dragon's Age, the one that they released last fall, that vastly underperformed compared to what they were looking for. They're supposedly working on that new Mass Effect game, but you sort of feel like if that Mass Effect game doesn't hit, if it suffers the same fate as that Dragon's Age game, then they're probably shutting down BioWare, because that would be several misses in a row for them. Even going back to Andromeda, I think was the last Mass Effect game.
Yeah, I could see. I don't know. I feel like BioWare is one of those studios that they could potentially sell, that somebody else would pick up.
Yeah.
An Xbox or at least we can combine this with another studio, or we can
Wasn't
use the
Microsoft
talent
buying
of
a lot of studios?
yeah.
Yeah, but like at this point, like with their track record over the last few years, you're just buying the IP more than anything.
Yeah, and I could see that being part of it.
Yeah.
You figure. I mean, I don't know how fast Xbox would do something, but with just putting out Starfield, I could see like, well, we could do something potentially with Mass Effect as a, combining that, or You know, I don't even remember what the last Dragon Age was called, but like, was it Inquisition won Game of the Year when it came out? And so like, I think they do still hold enough weight that they could probably sell it, but it certainly, there's a period of time where selling BioWare would be like, there's no way in hell we would ever do something like that. So,
yeah, I mean, they probably do sell off the IP, right? I'm not sure the development team, if people want that development team. Like, do you just sell off the IP and start over from scratch? And like, I don't even mean to attack those people. Sure. I'm sure those people are very talented developers, but, you know, I feel like you maybe just want to start over from scratch. You know, bring in a new team like was done with Baldur's Gate 3 and let somebody new tackle it. Let's see. Some good news. A Pokemon Presents has been scheduled for July 22nd. One assumes that Arceus
Legends
ZA. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That would be showcased there.
We're definitely going to see Legends ZA. We're probably going to see I forget what they called it, the stadium ripoff. It's not a ripoff, it's still Pokemon Company, but that doesn't have the mini games.
Right.
Probably we'll see something for the different mobile apps, you know, Masters EX, TCG Pocket. Maybe we'll see something again for Concierge.
I would imagine you get an update on one of those shows that they're producing.
Yeah.
So the biggest announcement that we wouldn't know of would probably be a Gen 5 remake, I imagine.
Yeah.
Right? And I know people hated the chibi style that they did for the Gen 4 remakes.
Yeah.
I had no problem with it, but
people went nuts.
Yeah. But I could see that being a thing.
That's a thing that people have been begging for ages.
Gen 5 remakes was weird because there's 2 games.
Yeah, I'll say, and that's the thing is like Gen 5 is when they stopped doing a third game as the kind of like, here's the official bringing them together. So I imagine that when we do eventually get a Gen 5 remake, it'll be probably like a combined.
That's what I was thinking. I was saying like a black and white complete type of thing where it's both black 1 and white 1, or black 1 and black 2 and white 1 and white 2 together. It would be nice.
It would be. Yeah.
I feel like if they're going to announce that, they'll wait till next spring to announce that. Because like, don't you feel like that would steal a lot of the thunder away from Legends ZA?
I don't
think so. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think so.
Yeah, I could see them. I think I agree with you about like a trailer or anything like that, but I could see them dropping an announcement.
I think the reason is because those games are going to be so different, right?
Yeah.
Like we saw with Arceus that it was like such a different, like they're doing something different. Like, I don't know, I guess I feel like if people were really looking forward to like, what is the next one, Gen 10? Is it the next? Yeah. You know, if people were really anticipating Gen 10 and instead whatever the Arceus remake or the sequel was, I think people would be excited, but like that's not the Pokemon experience that I would be looking for from the next mainline installment. So for me, I feel like those aren't going to necessarily like compete. I feel like those exist in like slightly different spheres.
Okay.
That would be my take. People might disagree with that, but I'm also not the biggest Pokemon fan. I enjoy it, but I'm not.
Yeah, and again, I think I could see them dropping an announcement. I certainly agree with you. Like a trailer would divert so much attention.
Do we have a date for ZA?
I want to say it's like November 17th or something like that.
I didn't know if it was like November makes sense. That's when they usually release, I guess. But
yeah,
I thought it was October. Maybe
it might be October. It's this fall.
Late October, early November feels like the pretty standard Pokemon release. Yeah. I guess like, you know, I could see if like it was sometime around then, like it was coming in like the beginning of August or at the end of July, like, all right, maybe we do hold off. But like with there still being a few months before ZA releasing, I also guess I just don't think it would compete.
October
much as well.
16th.
Okay.
October. Okay. Yeah.
So fairly soon in
Sure,
the grand
sure.
scheme of things.
Yeah. I'll
Like,
say I'm going to blink and that's going to be here.
I think Alicia's probably right. Like maybe you get, hey, this is our next thing.
Yeah.
Like our next thing is the remake of Black and White. Stay tuned for more news. Because like I feel like that doesn't take the attention away. That just builds hype for what's next.
Sure.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, an actual trailer and a release date of this is coming next March, right?
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't want to do
Sure.
that.
They're not going to Taylor Swift it. Like,
Yeah, I think if there's anything resembling a trailer, it's similar to like the Kirby Air Riders trailer.
It's a logo
reveal.
where it's
Yeah.
just like a hey.
Very much a tease.
Yeah.
Let's see. Other Pokemon news. And to me, this is the most exciting Pokemon news. They showed off Nintendo released a video on their Nintendo Today app. Remember that?
oh, yeah.
And that app showcased Pokemon Scarlet and Violet running on a Switch 2 with that new update. And it shows it running at 60 frames a second with more crowded fields, right? So more Pokemon on the field and everything. So I think we talked about screenshots that have been put out comparing it on Switch 1 versus Switch 2. The thing that really blew me away with this was it shows it in very crowded open areas running at a silky smooth 60 frames a second. It should be able to run that game at 60 frames a second, but I was not in any way putting faith in the Pokemon company to have it do that. And so I feel like this is a huge win.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was a pretty cool video, and it does get me excited to, like, once I get my Switch 2, pop Violet back in and maybe start playing again, because it's been several months since I've played Violet. But
Well,
Go ahead.
so they're doing the Switch 2 version, like they're doing with a lot of their games, correct? Is that one of the paid ones?
No, I think
that's
it's
a free one.
Excellent.
I think the only
I've
ones
never
that
played
I've
Scarlet
already
or
bought
Violet.
it.
I've had it since it came out, but
Yeah.
I think
I
the
will
only
finally
ones,
play it.
I think the only ones that are paid are generally ones that are adding content.
Sure.
And those Zelda games, which they claim are adding content, but it's Zelda and they know people will pay it.
And I think those are, if you have a Nintendo Online, you can get those for free.
Yeah. I think
Free
you have to have
with
the
subscription.
expanded one, the one that comes
Sure.
with N64 and
Yeah.
GameCube games. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, they already got away with charging $50 for DLC or $40 for DLC or whatever. They better give us this one for free.
Oh, from the last one, from not
Yeah,
Sun
the-
and Moon, but Sword
no,
and Shield.
No, the Gen 9 DLC was like $40.
I didn't even know
First-
Gen 9 got DLC.
Yes, you did. You just forgot because I talked about it when it came out.
Wow.
Yeah,
No, I wasn't being mean about that. It was just a statement.
I was gonna say
You never say anything sassy, so when you do, it comes across as sassy.
I also feel like that side of the room attacks Mario a lot when he's saying the most innocuous things. I didn't know that.
Are
Yes, you did.
Are you tone policing me?
And during Pride Month,
During Pride Month.
I did not mean that to come off as sassy. I do that to my family all the time, where they'll say things and we're just like, yeah, you didn't know that, you just forgot. So I did not mean that to be sassy at all.
We're just-
it's okay because I didn't know you talked about it either. So
he was paying really good attention.
I think
Well, I mean, again, this was what, a year ago now in December that they dropped the DLC. So
It's been a while.
I can't blame you for forgetting.
I didn't remember either. I'm going to say what I was whispering to Mario out loud. I didn't remember either. Because, I mean, we talk about different games, and obviously not every game is everybody's cup of tea. And so when we start talking about Pokemon, I'm like,
smile and nod.
I'll be honest, I get the different Pokemon confused.
yeah.
Like I get
There are 1,000 of them.
well, yeah, fair.
No, we've
I meant the games.
Yes, yes.
No, we've even hit the point in TCG Pocket where some of the cards, I'm like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
I mean, like, unless it's like your 8-year-old autistic like little brother, like, how are you going to know all like 1,000 plus Pokemon?
If that's your like hyper focus or your, what is it?
Hyperfixation.
Hyperfixation, yes. I will say, someone at Mount Vernon Pride, the Pokemon that can replicate and can look like other Pokemon and like mainly takes
Ditto.
No, then I'm the wrong one.
Mr. Mime?
No, he looks like a his first iteration looks like a twisted Pikachu.
Mimikyu.
That one.
He doesn't mimic
And then-
he doesn't
and-
look like other Pokemon. It's a costume that he wears because his real form is scary.
So that's what he came. The Drag King came in that outfit, and he was like a furry underneath it, and I was like, Pride has changed.
And Christina yelling at clouds.
But there were so many little kids, and there was one that was like, "That's my favorite Pokemon," and I'm like, "Oh,
the beautiful thing, every Pokemon is someone's favorite Pokemon,
Yes.
and that is beautiful.
And I was like, "And this is real gay." Like, something only I can say.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's like there's so much Pokemon, right? Like so many games, so many different characters and stuff. Like it is very difficult to like keep it all straight. So like I don't blame anyone, right? We tease a lot about Kingdom Hearts on here, and Pokemon's so much worse than Kingdom Hearts. Just the amount of stuff to keep straight. I know the story.
I was gonna say
convoluted.
yeah.
But anyways, yeah, that video looks amazing. Like I hesitant to give them credit because I feel like in a lot of ways, a lot of these Switch 2 updates are making the games look and play like they should have.
Yeah, I'll give them credit for it being a free update, but yeah it should have been this from the beginning.
And that's why it should be free.
Yeah.
Right? Like it would be very
Scummy.
yeah, to charge for that.
Yeah.
Like this should be free. This is the game that you sold people on originally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, my sister's Switch is a Scarlet Violet one with the Joy-Cons
Oh,
having
that's
like
neat.
Miraidon and Koraidon on them. So like, yeah, this better be free.
We talked about a few weeks ago this split fiction film. Now Amazon MGM Studios has entered into this. They are currently negotiating a $2 million purchase of the package. So package in film terms is that oftentimes a property like a book or in this case a video game, somebody will buy the rights to that. They'll get a star and a director to sign on to it. But like that has been put together often by agents and not a film studio. So then a film studio comes in and says, hey, we want to make this. We want to actually put up the money and produce this. So that's what Amazon bought MGM. That's what they are doing in this case. So this seems like it would be an Amazon MGM film. That's good because they release their films into theaters in most cases. So this is not saying this would be direct to streaming. It would come out in theaters and then eventually end up on Amazon Prime Video. I think if you're getting John Chu and you're getting Sydney Sweeney as part of this package, you best release that in theaters.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I'll say the fact that this will be John Chu's first project after Wicked. You know how many people are going to go on that alone?
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of hype around this.
Yeah.
It's going to be like a mixed bag between like video game fans, people that drool over Sydney Sweeney.
No, that's the same.
Oh, is it? Okay, fair. Because I am both. No, I'm just kidding. But also, and then you're going to have the Wicked folks come.
You're going to have
because
the
of
Wicked folks. You're going to have the Crazy Rich Asians folks.
Yes.
It's like John Chu has proven himself.
The
You have to be clear. You're talking about fans of the film,
Yeah.
not just the Crazy Rich Asians.
Yes. Fans of the film directed by John Chu.
Who may have been Crazy Rich Asians, but we can't.
Look, we're going to have the wicked people. We're going to have the Crazy Rich Asians. What weird demographics are you talking about?
But it's like he's already proven how he can revitalize the rom-com genre. He's already shown that he's probably one of the only modern directors who understands the magic of movie musicals. So like there are others, but
there are very few.
There are
I
very
will
few.
say.
And that, so like for him to be coming in doing a video game movie, I'm excited.
And this is going to be Sydney Sweeney's like big role leading into Big the Cat.
Yeah. Which is just amazing.
Yeah.
Christina's leaving.
I look at Christina, who just told us, she is a fan of Sydney Sweeney. Is angry about her playing Big
She's
the
getting
Cat.
a word.
Because I watched you for it, because I saw boobs. You're not going to see boobs when she's Big the Cat.
You don't know. Have you ever been on DeviantArt? Searched Big the Cat?
Have you seen Big the Cat?
Last I saw Big the Cat doesn't wear a shirt.
All right, fair.
Look, this is the hard R-rated Big the Cat spinoff.
It's just now how I can picture Sydney Sweeney coming out. I can't.
It's going to be like that Cats movie.
Oh God! Please no. That's stuff that it'll be very uncomfortable in my body to be Sydney Sweeney and to see that. It's just what am I right now? I can't.
You're not gonna understand those emotions. You're gonna have to go to so much therapy after watching that film.
I already do, Justin.
Well, more therapy.
I guess I'll have more to talk
Big
about.
the Cat equals therapy.
I'm just gonna go in and just be let me paint a picture for you. Patrick, I need you to focus for a second.
But if you pull that up on your phone and show it to him, then he'll need therapy. It's like the Ring video. You see Sydney Sweeney as Big the Cat, you'll die 7 days later.
Well, I was just thinking the Ring video and also the Smile franchise.
Yeah.
It's it's that. Oh no.
Oh man,
I love that Christina was so ready to take me seriously and was this is her first role, a big role since blah blah blah.
This is why
She was in Madam Web.
Oh my God. This is why we poke
whatever
fun
that
at
other
Mario, because
rom-com
Mario
was.
can get those slickums in. I'm just yep. What the fuck, Mario?
What a trifecta of video game films, though. Was it Outrun, Split Fiction, and then Big the Cat. You know they're gonna make a Sonic the Hedgehog 4.
They have to. They make so much money.
they tease it at the
Yeah,
end
I
of the
say
third one.
also every Sonic movie has been better than the last. So yes.
Which is
okay.
Which is fair, actually.
What
they
makes
have been.
this one better?
Well, yeah. Well, this one is going to be. You've got the animated Sonic characters, the CGI ones, but Sydney Sweeney's just going to be her human self.
In a costume.
I'm Big the Cat.
I was just saying they just
Not in
prefer her.
costume. That's the problem.
That is truly Christina's issue.
Yes. I just got done talking about furries too.
They're going to love this film. Those Sonic films are already made for the furry community to some extent. So this one's just leaning into it.
Yeah.
Anyways, congratulations to Amazon MGM for finalizing their deal.
Oh, yeah. I do think this film will, unlike a lot of video game films, which seem to sort of limp into the theater, right? This one would come in with a lot of excitement behind it. Whether it's good or not, right, is a whole other issue. But the people behind it, you're getting one of the hottest young stars. I don't mean that looks wise, but just hype.
In both.
And okay, Christina.
I'm just kidding. It's Pride Month.
Okay. And you're getting one of
Sorry. You're okay. Okay, yeah, let's bypass this. Yes, for all the reasons, yes.
And you're getting one of the most hyped directors, right, of the moment, who's coming off, a huge kind of surprise hit. I think that film outperformed what most people anticipated.
Yeah.
And theoretically, I think they announced tomorrow we're getting the trailer for part 2.
Well, and there's already things about part 2 that folks are excited to see what they're gonna adapt Nessa Rose's story more. That way it's less problematic. And so there's already, there's Cynthia Erivo wrote an original song for part 2.
Yeah, so she can get her EGOT.
Yep. Did they say Ariana has a new song in it too? I can't remember. So there's a lot of things that people are hyped for about part 2, even that they weren't necessarily hyped for about part 1. The hype is even bigger for part 2.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that film is going to be successful. Whether it is as beloved as the first one, we'll see. But it'll be financially successful. He'll be coming off of 2 financially successful, bigly financially successful films in a row. Coming into this, there'll, and you mentioned Crazy Rich Asians as well. So really 3 films in a row.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of hype behind this. And obviously the game has been wildly successful as well.
Yeah, I think Split Fiction will be a Game of the Year candidate at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So, we don't often get, we saw how successful Minecraft was this year.
Yeah.
That's a bad movie.
It is a kid's movie, though.
Yeah, but it's a bad kids movie.
Well, but I was going to say, kids' movies are going to make money, I think, no matter what.
Yeah.
But, this is going to be a family-targeted film, right?
I mean, I think it'll be PG-13.
I was going to say.
I don't think this isn't an R-rated film, but I don't think this is a PG movie.
Okay.
I think from just that's not a PG game in terms of the story that's getting told.
Right.
It's not
That's what I was
violent or anything like that, but
It's just complex.
there's big enough themes in there that you'd have to simplify in order to really get this to be a family kids movie.
But I would imagine this film will target that Marvel audience.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's what I mean, family friendly,
Sure.
not a. So I see this film as bizarrely, right? If you told me a year ago, Joseph Ferris's next game is going to be one of the most hyped video game film adaptations, that sounded insane. And then very quickly here we are, and it feels like a film that I think has everything going for it.
Sure.
I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But it has a lot going for it.
Yeah, they're checking all the right boxes for sure.
Yeah.
And that's a big shift for video game adaptations.
Sure.
Yeah.
When we talk about just a few short years ago, pre those Sonic films, really,
Yeah.
that was really where a lot of that began to turn.
You had Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
You had the
Are you
Mario movie.
are you talking about films
no,
that were
no,
actually
that were
good?
good.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, that first
I
Mortal
thought you were
Kombat
just saying that
movie.
existed at all.
No. Because I know there's the Mario, but it was really freaking weird.
Well, yeah, it's
And it was not successful financially.
Right.
And then you have to look at, I mean, there's things that are adjacent, like The Last Starfighter or Tron.
yeah.
There's stuff like
Yeah.
that you could point to. But yeah, I mean, it has not been a successful area. And we got those Sonic films, and Alicia's right; those have progressively gotten better against all logic and believability.
And the first one was already good.
Yeah,
It wasn't like it
yeah.
went from bad to good. It's gone from good to better to better.
Yeah, I mean, I feel
there
like
was a bad movie that the fans demanded be made better. Let's be
There
clear.
was bad- there was
it was
bad
more the character
animation.
design.
There was bad CGI.
Yes.
But the movie plot did not change. They just went back and reanimated.
I think that if that bad of a CGI would have been in
Why
there, we would have a
are
very
you
different.
poking
been.
her
We'd
with
have
a
a-
stick?
I mean,
No,
look,
you're not wrong. It would have been.
the best thing about that CGI disaster is that we got the ugly Sonic in the Chip and Dale movie, which is not a good movie.
But it
But
was
when
in
he
there.
when he shows up, it's pretty fantastic. I also feel like that's such an in joke that if people are watching that film 20 years from now, they're not going
They're not
to
gonna
get
get
that
it at
joke at
all.
all.
They're like, who is that? Why does Sonic look so weird?
Has Sonic been doing meth?
It would explain so much. Like, I'm just saying.
I believe
He's real fast.
in his own mind.
Yeah.
Everybody else is looking at him going, like, look at him.
What is he?
That guy's out of his head.
And it's like that little, like all the videos of that like little kid when he hit the ball and he's running to first and he does it in slow motion.
Sonic just going, I gotta go fast as his teeth are falling out.
Oh no. Sorry, Alicia. It's funny though.
His very human teeth.
Yes.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's how you know he wasn't doing meth in that first one, because he had human teeth.
Well, he hadn't started yet. That's what the
first
film was
trailer.
about.
You know those golden hoops he kept trying to find?
They just told you the plot didn't change.
Look, have you heard of ADR? They can change dialogue. That film was a metaphor.
Don't do drugs, kids. Don't do it.
Anyways, congrats to Amazon and MG.
Good transition there. Let's see. Bloomberg is claiming that Apple will release a dedicated gaming app around June 9th. That's when they are doing their WWDC, Worldwide Developer Conference. That's when they will show off. No, it has nothing to do with wrestling, Mario.
No. Go ahead.
I was like WWD. My brain was like WWJD.
That's why I was like, what would
Jobs develop?
What would developers choose?
But anyways, this is where
I'm so
they
glad we were on the same train of thought.
this is where they generally don't show off new hardware, but they do show off new software. So they'll show off the new updated versions for Mac OS and iOS and, you know, all that, the new features coming.
Oh yeah, this means I can actually play stuff on my Mac, which I usually don't.
Yeah, because I was thinking, don't they already have that with like the Apple Arcade or whatever? But is this more of like a Steam for Mac? Is
So-
what people are thinking.
They have Game Center.
I mean, Steam can already be on Mac, but you get the point I'm making.
Yes, Steam is on Mac. So they have Game Center, and so Game Center was originally their way of creating like a sort of like Xbox Live for Apple products. It allowed you to create a friends list and to like message them and see what games that they're playing and everything. They've sort of toned that down in recent years. That was its own app, and then they just integrated it into the operating system itself. This is kind of taking that back into its own app, but it is also going to take Apple Arcade, their subscription service, and integrate it into this. And then apparently will also offer some new additional features. And the rumor from Bloomberg is that this will be across all their hardware. So it'll be on phones and tablets, desktop computers, laptops, but also the TV OS. Mm-hmm. So if you have an Apple TV. So I think what people are excited about with this is, and we've talked about it multiple times over the years on this podcast, is when is Apple going to take gaming seriously? And particularly, I think when you think of that, the Apple TV, you have essentially a box under people's TV that can play video games.
Yeah.
Like all you need is a Bluetooth controller to connect to that. Mm-hmm. And so if you have a very streamlined interface that offers a lot of the features that people expect from a game console, and you could port over, you know, a lot of games that people might just want to play, right? Like the thing I always come to is something like a Madden or NBA 2K, that casual game player, they don't need the like latest and greatest graphics, right? Mm-hmm. But if the box that they already have connected to their TV to stream Netflix and other things could play those games at a decent enough quality, even like say a Switch 1 level quality, sure. Mm-hmm. Right? I think then that makes a whole lot of sense, you know, for a lot of people to say, okay, I'll buy the $50 controller and I can buy this game for, you know, $20-$30 and just play it on here. I don't know that they'll take it that far, but I feel like if if Apple leaned into that just a little bit more, that there is certainly an appetite for that. You know, and it's always cool to, you know, Apple, there are billions of Apple devices out there. So if they make a move towards gaming, that will affect the gaming landscape.
Sure.
It will just depend how significant that is. So we'll find out at WWDC. Which has nothing to do with wrestling or DC Comics. It's not them coming together. It's not going to be like John Cena wrestling Superman.
John Cena's
Cena
already
is
part of the DC
Peacemaker,
universe.
right? Like, so it works. It works.
Oh, well, there you okay. There you go. That does actually work. Never mind.
Here you tried to dunk on us, and you're coming up with like, great ideas here, Justin.
Let's see. So as part of the Unreal Engine showcase, they showed off a tech demo of Witcher 4 running at 60 frames a second with ray tracing and they claimed that this is running on a base PlayStation 5. I sent that video out this morning. It just got released this morning. That looks really good to me. I don't know if you all watched it. They showed them like walking through a wooded area in the mountains and all the shadows playing off of that, and then walking into a very crowded city. That game looks amazing. You know, of course, Witcher 3 was an amazing looking game. I mean, it still is really, but like particularly at the time. And I think that Witcher 4 footage, you know, is one of the most amazing looking tech demos I've seen. So how close the actual final game will look on that and everything, right? This is a tech demo. This is not necessarily the game up and running.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. That looks incredible.
Yeah, I mean, just the playing of the shadows off of it, and then particularly when they go into the city, how crowded it is with the, you know, NPCs moving around and everything. And, you know, you compare that to something like Clair Obscur, which is, I think, a very nice looking game, but that's a much more sparsely populated when you're in those areas. And finally, when it comes to news, the biggest news, the news of the year for Christina, Garfield Kart is getting a sequel, Garfield Kart 2, All You Can Drift.
Christina just loves cats.
I was going to say, so much cat content for Christina today.
Wait, yes and no. No.
What if they have a guest character that is Sydney Sweeney as Big the Cat?
No.
Crossover of the century,
that will
dude.
not fix what makes this game garbage.
You haven't even played this game.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
This is
Like,
a
that
new
will
game,
not-
Christina.
that
Maybe
will-
this one's not garbage.
I can't wait for Garfield Kart 2 All You Can Drift to be on Christina's Game of the Year list.
They were right, folks. I don't know. No. No, it's like, that's what I'm saying. What makes this game garbage is the mechanics of it. So Big the Cat, Sydney Sweeney as Big the Cat won't fix what makes it garbage.
I don't know. I think
you
you'd be
don't know
willing
that
to
this game-
tolerate more.
I mean, sure, but
You don't know that this game is garbage yet. You haven't played it.
but what made the original? That's what I'm saying. Unless they've fixed that, if it's the same,
They're saying that if you have the same exact game, but with Sydney Sweeney as Big the Cat, it's not any better. But I would argue Christine would like it more.
yes, but
That's the only point I'm making. That's the only point I'm making.
that doesn't make it not garbage, though. It's just pretty garbage.
But here's the question: would you buy it?
The fact that she's stopping
The hesitation says it all, folks.
Yeah, I mean,
It's Pride Month. Leave me alone.
and look what they announced in Pride Month: Garfield Kart 2, All You Can Drift.
Yeah.
all you can drift. There's no drifting in that game. Like the mechanics are so bad.
Well, it's because it wasn't all you could drift.
Fair.
Now you can drift all you want.
I mean,
that one was premium content to drift. You had to pay for each drift. That was DLC.
They're putting it right in the title. They're really leaning into the drifting, as one does.
Yes,
when
as
drifts.
you do. September is going to be a great month.
Yeah, this is coming out in September. It's coming to the PlayStation 5, Xbox, Switch, and PC. So pretty much everywhere. Get those carts going.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things. Like, thankfully, we'll get Mario Kart World, which will like carry us to Garfield Kart 2.
Yeah, thank goodness.
I mean, look, Nintendo had to rush out the release of the Switch 2 because they had to get it out before this.
Well, and even better, I guess, news for Christina. Christina's, because you haven't gotten a Switch 2 yet, you're going to be like, I got my kart game too, guys.
Is that what I do?
You did the chicken dance. Yeah, this is so you don't feel left out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all.
The Garfield Kart people knew.
I appreciate y'all. I've already gotten the pity invite. It was like, hey, do you want to come over and watch me pack boxes, and then you can play my Nintendo Switch too.
I mean, you can't play Garfield Kart 2 yet.
And you know what? That's fine. Okay.
Unfortunately,
you'll survive till then.
I think
Till
so.
September.
maybe it'll have online multiplayer so Alicia can play with you come September. What we did not do as part of playing for pets, we did not play Garfield Lasagna Party, which is the Mario Party with Garfield characters.
Okay, I would play that.
Don't say something. Don't commit to something that you might regret.
Yeah.
Is it bad?
Sounds like we're going to be playing now. This is recorded for the world to hear.
Yeah. For the world.
Mario Party is bad. What do you mean is it bad?
Wait,
Hold on a second here. Hold on a second here.
I don't like the pacing of
Look,
Mario
Cody
Party.
Rhodes agrees with me. It's a bad game.
Listen. Do you get lasagna instead of stars?
I believe you do.
Done.
Exasperation in your voice. Like, I think so.
Oh my god.
I mean, look, I've played some of it.
I will bring a Stouffer's lasagna so that we can eat lasagna while playing Garfield's lasagna party.
All right. That's a commitment.
All right,
We will
in
play that.
September, Justin will get All You Can Drift, and
I didn't say
Play
this one.
all the Garfield games.
yeah.
I mean, playing for pets is all Garfield this year.
Oh, dude, it fits. It
Yeah,
fits.
it's a cat.
It's a cat, and we can watch the Garfield movie, and that is, yeah, it fits.
I mean, we can't watch the Garfield movie and stream that.
Well,
We can watch it and
Say
they
we
can
won't
watch our reactions.
Yeah, we'll like
to
MST3K it.
Oh no.
I don't know. I see people stream movies all the time on Twitch, and I'm like, I don't think you should be doing that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
Anyways, yeah. I mean, look, there is something very kind of interesting about the fact that we continue to get these kart racing games. Like, we've gotten 3 Nickelodeon kart racing games. We've gotten 2. Actually, I think this is the 3rd Garfield kart racing game. There was a Smurfs kart racing game that came out recently from the same developer as this.
Crash Bandicoot one.
Well, yeah, but that's actually a good one.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree. I didn't know if you were just like listing or if you just were putting the shitty ones on that list.
Well, I was just thinking, we do get a lot of those, right? Like, there is this market, I think, because
the mascot racer.
I think parents know that kids like these, right?
Yeah.
Like, kids love Mario Kart.
And I guess developers just assume that it's an easier game to make than it is, but I don't know.
Well, I think we've talked about it before, but like a lot of Nintendo's franchises make them look stupidly easy to copy. Like, and I think Mario Kart is an example. I think Mario Party, like, as much as I joke about like Mario Party not being great, like, Mario Party looks like stupidly simple.
Yeah, it's a board game
to make.
Yeah.
And the mini games are very simplistic in a lot of ways. And then people try to make one, and
you get
they're
Garfield's lasagna party.
we get a classic.
I can't speak for Garfield's Lasagna Party, but I can say the Rugrats Mario Party that's on the N64 is terrible.
I didn't even know this existed, and now I need it.
It's like Rugrats Scavenger Hunt or something like that.
Yeah, didn't you want me to ask that the voice actress about that? Had she played it?
Can't believe you didn't.
E.G. Daily, had she played? I mean, you could have came. You showed up like 30 minutes after her talk. You could have come and asked her. She probably would have been like, what? There's a Rugrats
I have
video
a burning
game?
question.
This guy's asking me about Pee Wee Herman. This guy's asking me if I've played this N64 game.
I think she probably gets asked about Pee Wee Herman quite often.
Yeah.
I don't know that she's ever been asked about that Rugrats party game.
You would have stood out in her memory, Mario. You would have been the
I don't know if
first.
that's a good thing.
She would have been.
Especially because I don't have anything nice to say about that game. Maybe her
Were you
voice
involved
acting
with
was
this
fine.
game? Yeah, I did the voice. Well, it sucked. All right. All right. That does it for news. So let's get to our big question of the week. Last week we did because it's coming to the end of the Switch's lifespan. There's going to continue to be some Switch games, but most development's going to switch over to Switch 2. Switch.
Switch into that sentence one more time.
I will. All right, that's a challenge. Do you want to switch it up and talk about the switching over to Switch 2 development? Anyways, but we talked about the 5 best games for the Switch last week. This week, I believe we mentioned it last week, we're going to talk about the 5 most disappointing games on the Switch 1. So these are the 5 games that were the biggest disappointments, not necessarily the worst games, but games that were just hugely disappointing to us.
I think we have to mention,
I'll say we can all agree that Mortal Kombat 1 belongs on this list, right? In honor of OJ.
I think it would be hard to make this list without Mortal Kombat 1. So Mortal Kombat 1 is on this list. I would nominate Nintendo World Championship NES Edition.
Oh, yeah.
Not a bad game, but a hugely disappointing game.
Among the same vein, I'd probably say really any of the Mario sports games.
Yeah.
Probably soccer, the Mario soccer game being at the top of that list.
What is that game actually called, the title?
I don't know
Is
if
Mario
it's-
Strikers something?
I don't know if I think Charged is the last one. Oh, Mario.
Well, we'll let Mario look
Yeah.
up the title on that.
You bringing that up
Battle-
did remind me, though, of the Switch Sports. The one that was a knockoff of Wii Sports.
Battle League.
Yeah. Yeah, I put 1-2 Switch because I was expecting like Wii Sports, all of those types of games for the opening. So 1-2 Switch, really, I was like, this is
Charge.
bullshit.
Battle League.
Oh.
Charged, I think, was the Wii one. Yeah, and I guess
1-2 Switch is what you said.
yeah, to a lesser extent, I was gonna say Mario Golf Super Rush. I think that game is actually pretty solid, but like them announcing the single player mode, and it really did not live up to the excitement that I know a lot of people had for it.
Is it called Super Rush?
Yes.
Okay. I never played that one. I played the tennis game, which I thought was okay.
I heard the tennis game is actually semi decent, but
Alicia, you said Switch Sports.
Yeah, the
is that what the
Nintendo-
title of it
I
is?
think so.
can we just have a list full of sports games? Because I feel like Sports Story should
Yeah.
probably the sequel to Golf Story.
Oh yeah, Sports Story. That's a good one.
I don't know if anything else. I mean,
It was just Nintendo Switch Sports, yeah.
I think this is where, it's similar to, I feel like the conversation we had during the Game of the Year. It would probably be harsh to put it as a most disappointing game because it's not a bad game, but I think one that people wished like there was so much for would have been the Peach game.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think it can, it might be a little harsh to say it's one of the most disappointing. Like it's the most, it'd be among the most disappointing because of what people were hoping for rather than it like actually underperforming or being a bad game.
I actually have a different game over that one because I did consider that one. I would say Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
because of the performance.
Because of the state that game released in.
Yeah.
And I feel like that game was like even where it got to eventually with patches and everything. But like that game, is like a crown jewel of Nintendo. Sure. That's like releasing a broken Mario or Zelda game.
Yeah.
And that game was really broken at launch.
For sure.
And it never got up to what I would call an acceptable standard.
Right. I mean, so much that we had a story about it today.
Right. I mean, I think it is with Switch 2 getting up to that acceptable standard. But, it was also just an ugly game.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I could see Scarlet and Violet on this list.
And again, like this is not saying I don't think Nintendo World Championships is a bad game.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a very disappointing based on what that game could have been.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I say Pokemon, that's what I mean with it.
Yeah.
Right. Versus Arceus, which I think is one of the biggest surprises. I think we had it on our top 5.
Probably.
List.
We definitely talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that like that's just a different, right? Like a different type of disappointing as compared to like something like Mortal Kombat that's just broken.
Yeah.
Something that's like, you're like a 7 out of 10. Like sometimes the 7 out of 10 is even more disappointing, right?
Yeah. Because at least Mortal Kombat's so broken, it's funny.
Yeah, I see the world where like you could have been that 9 or that 10.
Yeah.
Like if you do these things here. Whereas like Mortal Kombat never had a chance.
Yeah.
When I think Princess Peach is that's when that game is disappointing.
Yes.
That's not an inherently broken game.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a game that I think people look at and go, what this could have been. It's like close to what it could have been. I don't think that game particularly ranks.
No, I don't think it's one of the top 5.
For sure.
But, like I get it. There's a reason. I think we gave it second place on our Game of the Year discussion.
The other one, I haven't played it yet, but just from everything I've heard, is Brothership, the new Mario and Luigi game.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think that is one of those things where it's almost like what we talked about with Lilo and Stitch, right? Like on its own, it's probably a perfectly fine game. But when you have the nostalgia for Superstar Saga or any of the other ones, it's like, that's a disappointment.
Yeah.
I don't know if anything else like immediately comes to mind.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I was kind of like looking around. The other one that I saw people mention, which personally I would disagree with, people had talked about like Origami King, and I think that's the same logic of Brothership. I think Origami King is a good game. Like it's not the first one I would recommend. I think the combat is probably its weakest part.
I was trying to remember if Color Splash was this system or last. It was Wii U.
Yeah, it was Wii U. That one is one of the very few Wii U games that never got brought over.
And there's probably a good reason. That game that was a very disappointing game for that franchise. Origami King, that's not a bad game, but like I get it being, I feel like people, like you go back and look at something like Thousand Year Door, people's expectation, Bowser's Inside Story.
Yeah.
Like these games are so good that the step down is just very mediocre.
The nostalgia goggles is what makes them disappointing rather than like the actual what it was. And same thing of like, what it could have been.
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of feel like maybe Splatoon 3 could be considered on this list only because they basically just made the same game 3 times.
Yeah.
And released it as different games. I know that game has a very good single player mode that lots of people really like, but Splatoon as a game has not really evolved significantly.
Yeah.
And they put out all 3 of those in a very short manner of time.
I was really disappointed with the Switch port of Dead by Daylight because it wasn't powerful enough to do it, and there were so many issues with like lag and things. I'm excited to play it on Switch 2 because I think it'll be better. But on Switch 1 it was not good at all.
I think the other one that I don't know if it was I don't know. I never played it, so I don't know if it was disappointing when it first came out, but I feel like all these years later, it's almost more disappointing that they've never done anything more with it, is ARMS.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That just kind of feels like that just might be a dead franchise. They tried and it's like, nope, this is just, you're never going to see another ARMS thing after the one character got added to Smash.
Yeah.
But I think the problem with something like ARMS is Nintendo nowadays makes so few unique franchises. Like so much of what came out on the Switch was remakes or new entries into old franchises like Mario, Metroid Dread or something like that. That when they do go out and actually like spend the energy and time to build an entire new franchise like ARMS, for it to come out and just be, this isn't a bad game, but like it's also, if Nintendo's name wasn't attached to this, it would probably be quickly forgotten.
And it's probably, that disappointment is probably heightened considering that Splatoon is the previous one. And I know you just mentioned it, but Splatoon is still a success, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Particularly in Japan, those games are wildly successful. And Splatoon is a good game. Splatoon 3 is a good game. It's just after Splatoon 1 and 2,
same game.
it didn't feel like enough.
Yeah.
It felt like Nintendo falling into the Call of Duty trap. Right? And where you're like, okay, well, you've made the same game 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
It wasn't 3 years in a row, but it was pretty close.
Yeah.
They pumped those out.
Okay, so what do we got?
Anything else before we move on?
I don't know if there's other, I mean, I'm sure there's a number of like other games that we could say similar to like a Dead by Daylight. You know, there's just like, this system just wasn't powerful enough to run it. I think my stepsister's fiance had like The Witcher 3 and he's like, it wasn't very good, but it's almost like, I'm not even going to blame any, like, it feels like to put that hot, on the list, it's like you tried, but I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and my understanding is that game is playable. It's just you're not getting the full experience.
Yeah.
I know people complained about the Hogwarts Legacy for it because that game, instead of being fully open world, it introduced loading times as you go between different areas. So I know people complained about that. The Elder Scrolls, like Skyrim on there, I know some people had trouble with that.
Maybe that's its own. We just lump all of those together. It's like third-party games that were
shitty port.
Yeah. Third-party games that were too big for the Switch to handle.
Yeah, it got too big for its britches.
We have the category for sports. I mean, it makes sense that we have this category.
I mean, like, and especially when you compare that to things that did come out that actually run really well, like Doom 2016 got a port to Switch and actually, I have not played that, but from everyone who has, I've talked to, like that runs remarkably well, like much better than you would think.
And then a third category is nostalgia bomb. It's like, so the Brothership and the Peach one. I think even the NES probably falls into that a little bit. It's like we wanted it to be so much more because there's a lot of nostalgia of those games.
Right. Okay. So here's what we have right now. We have Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Mortal Kombat 1, Nintendo World Championship NES Edition, Mario Strikers Battle League 1 to Switch, Mario Golf, Super Rush, Switch Sports, Sports Story, Super Princess Peach, Mario and Luigi Brothership, Origami King, Dead by Daylight, Splatoon 3, ARMS, and I just have shitty ports written down.
I think the Pokemon game definitely needs to be the top 5 just because of all of the reasons we mentioned.
I feel like, I feel like there should just maybe be like an honorable mention for shitty ports because I feel like if that's, I feel like if it was a Nintendo property not running well on the Switch, I feel like that is a disappointment that's going to supersede anything else, right? So it's like even like Mortal Kombat 1, I'm disappointed, but I'm more disappointed in a Nintendo game being disappointing than. I mean, I can't speak for OJ. I know OJ was very excited about getting that, but.
I think the issue with Mortal Kombat 1 was like how ridiculously over the top broken it was. Like,
and the other thing with Mortal Kombat 1, I remember OJ saying like they had to get a new micro SD card for the storage space for it. And so like there was so much that was bad about that one. But I agree with you. I think similar to how last week with like Power Wash Sim, I was like, well, it's on the Switch, but is it a Switch game?
Yeah.
I think I feel very similarly with a lot of the shitty ports. Mortal Kombat 1, I think, is the exception.
I mean, we could just make that like a category and like put at, one of the positions shitty ports.
Yeah.
And that would include Mortal Kombat and, Dead by Daylight and a lot of these games that just the Switch was not powerful enough to actually be running these games.
Yeah. I think putting that in like the 5 slot.
Yeah.
I don't, like I said, that's kind of how I would feel.
I agree with that.
Or inversely, putting it at the 1 slot because there are so many.
Well, and I think that speaks so much to, part of the excitement for the Switch too, right? Like when I see stuff like Cyberpunk and, a lot of these very beloved games from the last 5 years or so getting ported over, right? I think Red Dead Redemption 2 is rumored. I don't think that's been officially announced.
Yakuza is one that we've talked about a couple of times.
Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Right. Like there's so many of these games that are coming out, you're like, oh, right. Because you there's no way you could have, you were smart enough to know, don't even try porting this over. And now that they are getting ported over, you're like, okay, this is great for people who just own a Switch.
Yeah.
So, a lot of these companies were, I think, smart enough to go, we're not even going to try this. This will be a disaster for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's one of our positions, we have 4 more to fill.
I do agree Scarlet and Violet probably. Just, again, the fact that it was a Nintendo game, was a Pokemon game, and was so broken.
And was a new generation. This wasn't...
was a new generation.
This wasn't like...
It wasn't like Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu where they were...
Or Legends, like running badly, where you might have been like, okay, well, this is an experiment that you're doing.
If your like baseline game is running that poorly, there's problems.
When Gen 8 is better than Gen 9, there's a problem.
So are we ranking these, or are we just sort of like in no order? Here are the 5.
We're just picking 5 for now, then we'll rank them.
What's the worst sports game out of all of those?
I would probably say the soccer game is the most disappointing of all of them.
But I do sort of think maybe the problem with all these sports games is that these were such bare bones games. Like traditionally, what has made games like Mario Golf like very popular is that they went above and beyond. So like there's the basic game, and then they would add, like, even back on the Game Boy, they would add like entire single player quests and things to them. I mean, that's where stuff like Sports Story and Golf Story are getting that from.
Yeah. Well, that's why I would put soccer at the top. That's as the most disappointing, because I think it had the least of that. At least Super Rush, the golf game, had a single player, but it just wasn't great. Yeah. Whereas Strikers was released and then they just did nothing with it. Like it got nothing added to it. So that's why I would put that as the most disappointing of all of them.
Do we want to make that a category? Because we have
sports.
We have the golf, we have Strikers,
we have Switch Sports.
We have Switch Sports, which again is not bad, but like, you're making a full product of Wii Sports.
Yes.
And you don't do a whole lot.
That's
with
what
it.
I was thinking, like with when they got it so right with Wii Sports. Then that's what makes kind of so many of them disappointing, is like, you've already figured out the formula from this. Why are you going backwards?
Yeah. And I think you're right. That's the issue. A lot of these sports games felt like a step backwards.
Yeah.
So do we want to do like?
So I'm okay with it
sports?
as a
I'd be like,
category, and you can highlight the soccer game.
So like
as-
first party sports games. Because
Yeah.
I wouldn't
I think
include
that's-
sports story in that.
fair.
Like
That's fair.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing.
I also think brothership would be a good argument just because of what we've kind of already argued as like that should have been one of the best games on the Wii. Why is it Switch? Jesus, we're using too many words. That
I just mentioned the Wii.
yeah,
That's why.
that should have been one of the best games on the Switch because of what it was. So for it to like tank so hard,
I think there's
or
something
not tank, but you know,
I think there's something to be said as well that it was like such a surprise because it was like one of the last games. Like it was
Yeah.
right. It's like this
last
swan
fall.
song type of
Yeah.
thing. And so it's like, oh my God, like, because I remember
Well, it
us
was
even
something no
talking
one
about it
expected.
in the sense of like going into that direct, like, oh, I don't even know what to expect. But like that was the direct that we got Echoes of Wisdom
Right.
and we got Brothership. And it was like, oh, wow. Like, I think, you know, and it was the Donkey Kong Country Returns got announced as like,
Right.
Yeah.
that's
Right.
sort of what I was expecting was a lot of these, like, here's a couple of these like ports and stuff like that. So for it to be like this, oh my God, this is a beloved franchise that's getting a new game.
I was saying,
and
I
for
think-
it to underwhelm.
And I think no one expected a Mario and Luigi game at all.
No, I mean, I don't think people were surprised to have a Mario and Luigi game get announced necessarily. Like it's not like it's been decades type of thing. But
Yeah.
I think there's like another level of disappointment where it's just like it almost feels like did you know that this game was like we're just kind of like here like have this right at the end type of thing. So I could see it being on there. Of those like nostalgia type of ones,
Yes.
I would even though I haven't played it, just from what I've heard and from friends who've played it, I would include that before Origami King.
Yeah.
Okay. We also the other three, I guess, that I see as still being kind of in this discussion are 1-2 Switch, which I think coming after Switch Sports, right, as the like sort of game that's going to show off this new platform. I think a lot of people just felt
I
hugely
bought it and
underwhelmed.
then was so pissed. I was so mad. I was like, "What? You want me to milk a cow? Like what is happening?"
I will say I think there's some fun stuff
Sure.
with that game. But you know, as a full price game, it really feels
Yes.
more like a $20 game.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that's why people felt so hugely disappointed.
I think that's why I was so upset is because I bought it instead of another game.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else is on the list?
I think Nintendo World
Oh
Championships.
yeah.
Which again is not a bad game, but like it was basically what they were doing in those what were those retro games that
Yeah,
they put
on the
out?
Wii U.
Wii U.
Remix.
Yeah, retro remix.
That's what it was.
So they were kind of doing that.
So again, it's another one of those that they got the formula right. Like why?
Yeah.
Move
Fell back.
backwards.
Well, if you're going to expand that into a full $60 product, which I guess that wasn't, I think it was 40 or something when it came out. But like if you're going to expand that into a full product, there's so much more you could have done with it. Because I know like Mario, I think you talked about like, why isn't there just speed running built into this? Like you're putting these old NES games like Super Mario Bros. Why from the very beginning can you not just try to speed run Super Mario Brothers?
Yep.
And like them do, you know, a leaderboard online so you can see, you know, even if just among your friends, like who can run this game the fastest. Yeah. Because, you know, and that's not a huge feature to expect in that game. You're already putting those old NES games in there. It's not costing you anything.
Right.
And that seemed like a weird thing to like leave out of there. Yeah. That would have been very easy.
The other one that I think it should be in the 5 is ARMS. I know we now have 6, but
No, we have 7.
oh,
Yeah.
So we need to.
I guess my wonder with ARMS is it a disappointing game or is it a disappointment from Nintendo?
well,
Like, are we disappointed about something with the game itself, or are we disappointed that Nintendo didn't do anything more with the franchise?
I think it's both. I don't think that's a.
I never played it.
I was
or
going to say, I
anything,
think
so I don't know how
for
the
me,
game
that's
was.
not a necessary. I think those are like go hand in hand with one another.
Well, okay, so that was ARMS wasn't a launch game, but it was right after launch.
Yeah, it was very
Right.
shortly.
It was one of those that, again, they were trying to show off what the Joy-Cons could do, basically. So
Right.
Yeah.
So I kind of think of it and 1-2 Switch as like together.
Yeah.
Which of those would you rank as more disappointing?
Probably ARMS.
I think ARMS because of the IP aspect of it. I wouldn't seeing both of those side to side. If you told me which one of these would you have higher expectations for, it would be ARMS.
Agreed. Agreed.
That's my feelings. Even if it is maybe a better game, like if you actually like rated them against one another,
Yeah.
the fact that going to what you're saying, Alicia, nothing else came out of it. They really, I guess I think that is probably, it's up there for that disappointment for me.
Okay.
I think the only argument I would make for 1-2 Switch is I think a lot of people saw that game and thought of Switch Sports.
Of Wii
Yeah.
Sports.
Or Wii Sports.
Well, and
yeah.
and I got the Switch on launch day in 2016. So
So did I.
and that's why I bought that game is
Yeah.
because I was like, yeah, I could get one of these other ones, but this would be a good party game.
Right.
There'll be a lot of like variety, so I can have stuff until I'm able to get the next game.
I mean, like I said, I haven't played either of these. I don't own either of these games. So I don't necessarily have like a.
I'll bring you 1-2 Switch. So
It
you
should be one of these two. So like if the fact that you both have like experience with 1-2 Switch, at least it sounds like you do, Justin.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm fine
I've
with
played
that being there.
ARMS too.
I think 1-2 Switch was very disappointing at launch, and then I feel like ARMS though felt like, okay, well this is something Nintendo threw together as sort of a tech demo, and then to have ARMS come around after that, and it also felt like a tech demo to some degree.
Yeah.
Like it, and then I think Mario, you're right. For them to not follow that up with a more expanded version of it, like, okay, well, you did a very stripped down version of this game. You're going to follow this up, and then to never do anything with it, you're just kind of like, man, what was the point? Those are two potential new franchises that just fizzled, and they actually did follow up 1-2 Switch.
Yeah.
that game that came out and nobody played.
Yeah, say wasn't that everybody 1-2 Switch? Or
Yeah.
Just remember the horse head.
So I could see ARMS with that. And then I think like we have Nintendo World Championship and Mario and Luigi. Do we think those are more disappointing than 1-2 Switch? Because it could just be.
Oh, neither of those. I mean, what you're saying is cutting both of those essentially.
We could.
Yeah.
What are the two? Sorry.
NES Championship and Brothership.
I haven't played either one of those, so I don't feel like I can.
I have not played Brothership. I get people being disappointed. I also wonder if people would be as disappointed with that had they not done that Mario RPG remake.
Sure.
And then did the 1,000-Year Door
Sure.
all within the same year as that game coming out.
Well, and I think it just comes down to those are examples of very different types of disappointment as well. It feels like where NES is you could have done so much more. 1-2 Switch feels like what even was this?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think Brothership's a bad game.
Yeah, I think it's underwhelming when compared to all of its the previous entries in the series.
The only one of these I might call a bad game is 1-2 Switch.
Yeah.
And then even that would have been fine if it was like a pack-in tech demo.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't have been angry. You would just
If
been
it was like
eh.
the Astro Bot when
Right.
PS5 launched, I would have been like, okay, fine.
I think this is what we all think that Nintendo Switch 2 Tour game that's going to be
Yes.
$10.
Yes.
I think this is what we all think it's going to be.
Yep.
Which is why I feel like nobody's buying that game.
No.
You've got the most experience with these games, so I'm
Yeah.
fine deferring to whichever one
Agreed.
holds the most.
Well, I have
disappointment
not
for
played
you.
Brothership, so
Oh, okay.
I might leave that one off.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I would say 1-2 Switch or Nintendo World Championship. Like that should be our 5th pick.
Cool.
Yeah. Then, like I said, I'm fine leaving that one up to you.
Yep. And we can make the shitty ports the honorable mention.
No, I think that one still would make it on there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's making it our top 5.
Oh, that's right, because I didn't.
I think 1-2 Switch might belong on there because I feel like so many people got burned by that game.
That's fair.
Because I feel like people thought they knew what that was going to be, and then they bought it and they felt really burned. Whereas Nintendo World Championships is just underwhelming.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody felt burned by that game.
I think it's one where there was a lot there. They just it was more the rolling out of the functions and stuff that was disappointing than the game itself.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. So our 5 most disappointing are Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, 1-2 Switch, ARMS, shitty ports, and first-party sports. So how do we want to rank these? I think ARMS at 5
That's fine.
And then I had Scarlet and Violet as the 1,
as number 1.
just because of like all the things that we've mentioned. Like it should have been like the best game, right? So
Do we want that or do we want shitty ports at number 1?
I would almost put Scarlet and Violet over shitty ports because it is Nintendo making it, so they should
Yeah.
know what their own system is capable of.
and I kind of keep thinking about what Mario said about like it's an issue with the system itself. Like maybe we shouldn't have ported it over, right? So yeah, and then shitty ports number 2.
Then that leaves us with 1-2 Switch and first-party sports. I would put sports at probably 4
Okay.
yeah.
That's fine.
because I don't feel like those are actually like horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's
All right. So your 5 most disappointing games are ARMS at number 5. At number 4, first-party sports games. So that is there's soccer.
there's a collection of games in these
Yeah,
5
golf.
games.
At number 3, 1-2 Switch. At number 2, shitty ports.
Including Mortal Kombat 1.
Yes, that's just for OJ in there. We hope nobody else suffered through that other than OJ. And at number 1, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And we should say, to their credit, at least Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is getting, to some degree, fixed,
Yeah.
right? If you buy a brand new $500 console.
Or if you already are set to update it. Yeah.
So that's your most disappointing games. That does it for this week's episode. If you want to check out our top 5 games, that is actually posted on salukigames.com. So you can either listen to the podcast or read it as an article. This will also go up as an article in addition to the podcast. And then, okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Mario like took my pen, so I thought he was trying to write me a note or something.
I was, but I didn't know if you were then gonna.
Well, do you have something to add?
Well, I don't know if we're having it next week's episode.
Oh,
Yes, we are
okay.
having next week's episode.
Okay, that's all I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh, are we doing next week's episode?
Yes.
Yeah, we're recording
we will.
on Monday next week. But
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we are doing a new episode. So go to salukigames.com, check out all that. We will have an episode next week where we will be covering the Switch 2 launch, which we're very excited about. We will also have all the like sort of fallout from Summer Game Fest. So we'll have coverage of what the coolest games and all that are. It will also be, this is not as exciting. It will also be Alicia's final episode with us. So it's going to be a big episode with a lot to talk about. So, it may be even more plus size than this episode where we spent, I feel like a good hour talking about Sydney Sweeney as Big the Cat. But please tune in. Thank you, Mario, Christina, and Alicia for joining me. Thank you for everyone listening. Have a great week. Play something fun. We'll talk to you soon.